Chapter 342. Ren Xiling and Ma Hao met again on the rooftop of the cram school. They exchanged information. Ma Hao didn't say anything strange about old Qin, but simply said that they lost contact with Shun Mei Huan after she knocked out Gu Feng. It said that the man has a mistress outside and has a habit of beating her son. If I were him, I wouldn't stab him. Ren Xiling didn't care. Maybe she doesn't want to see him again. That's the only way. Ma Hao shrugged. But since the case has been reported, we have to go through the procedure and send people to look for him. I always feel that the police force is usually wasted on this kind of family affairs. Ren Xiling couldn't help but tease. What? Do you want to have a big case every day? Oh, my, good for you. It turns out that you are ambitious. Go away. This case is enough to give me a headache. Ma Hao sighed. I forced myself to file a case in front of the leader. Now, after a few days, there is no clue. It's so troublesome to think about it. If I can't find any substantial evidence, the case will be closed. I haven't found out who the rumored teacher is, Ren Xiling said helplessly. The rumor seems to have appeared suddenly. No one knows where the source is, and no one knows who the mysterious teacher is. It's so unfair to me. There are so many teachers in this cram school. Alas, it's too late. I have to catch the bus. Where's your car? Ren Xiling said casually. It seems to have some problems a few days ago. I sent it for maintenance. Then I'll drive you. Ma Hao thought for a while. Anyway, I haven't seen little Luo for a long time. Let's visit him. I think so. Therefore, Boss Luo, who was not prepared, was hugged by Mayu. Sit down. I'll make you some tea. Luochio smiled and started to greet people. Ma Hao immediately sat down and sighed. It's still more comfortable to meet an acquaintance and have a chat. Luochio's living room was lit with warm lights, which made people feel very comfortable. Ma Hao felt as if he had relaxed all of a sudden. Uncle Ma, have you been under a lot of pressure recently? What do you mean? Ma Hao sat up and asked curiously. Luochio said casually. Normal people wouldn't show such an expression if they weren't under pressure, nor would they sigh. Ma Hao smiled. You're still the same. You're observant, just like your father. Yes. Ren Xiling nodded in agreement. She hugged a pillow and sat on the edge of the sofa. Old Ma, this is the only thing I support you on. This brat's eyes were really sharp. You don't know, but this brat only looked at me and knew what I ate. That's because you only eat heavy food, Luochio said indifferently. Ren Xiling rolled her eyes and pretended to hit him. Ma Hao laughed heartily. Just like that, the three of them chatted and laughed. It was quite good to have a quiet conversation. Ma Hao sighed. Suddenly, his heart moved. He looked at Luochio and said, Luochio, let me ask you something. Listen. Ma Hao thought for a while and said, I recently encountered a case. I want to listen to the opinions of different people to stimulate my thinking. Sometimes your words are quite useful. Maybe you can remind me of something that I neglected. Ren Xiling held the cup of hot cocoa that Boss Luo specially made for her. She sipped and listened. She knew what Ma Hao was referring to. That's it. Ma Hao sighed and said, At present, we still don't know who this so-called teacher is, and we don't know how to find this person. Luochio thought for a while and suddenly asked, Are the 5 students in different classes? Yes, different classes. Luochio said again. Do you have the timetable of these classes? Ma Hao quickly took out a timetable from his briefcase. He had investigated this cram school for several days, so he naturally had this information. Do you also have the information of the dead students? Luochio asked again. Ma Hao hesitated for a while and nodded. This time, he took out a USB flash drive. In this way, Luochio looked at the personal information of the dead and the timetable of the cram school in his hand. He didn't say anything, nor did he show any expression. He took out his pen again and kept ticking on the timetable. Then he created another E1 form in his notebook and kept filling in some things. Ma Hao and Ren Xiling were confused. What is Luochio doing? Ma Hao lowered his head and asked. Who knows? To be honest, sometimes I don't know what he is thinking. Ren Xiling shook her head and whispered, Well, come here. Luochio suddenly raised his head. Ma Hao and Ren Xiling quickly walked behind Luochio. Luochio moved the screen of his notebook and pointed at the form on it. I listed the courses of these 5 students separately. Do you see the different colors of the grids? Ren Xiling nodded and pointed at one of the grids, which was the course of the first victim, mathematics teacher, English teacher. The Chinese teacher here is different from the second and fourth victims. Ma Hao also looked and said, well, the politics teacher only taught the third victim, but what's the connection? Luo Qiu said seriously. Haven't you found it? There is no teacher here who has been in contact with these 5 students at the same time. At most, he has only taught 2 students at the same time, because the students signed up for different courses. Ren Xiling suddenly understood. Luo Qiu nodded and said, that's right. Since Uncle Ma got the clue that these 5 victims are related to the rumored teacher, we can assume that this teacher is the same person. Isn't the problem obvious? Oh, you reminded me. Ma Hao nodded and said, let's assume that this so-called teacher is related to these students who committed suicide. Then this teacher at least needs to know these students. But according to my observation these past few days, I found that these teachers basically got off work after class. The victims were in different classes at different times, and they didn't even meet. Luo Qiu said indifferently. You can also assume that this mysterious teacher chose different classes in order to minimize the panic. At least, this teacher needs to know these students, right? In the same class, there were students who committed suicide one after another. How could this not be strange? Well, but if there is no teacher in contact with 5 students at the same time, Ma Hao was stunned, as if he had suddenly walked into a dead end. Who is this teacher? Ma Hao shook his head again, but we still can't be sure. Even if there is such a teacher, he is related to these consecutive suicides. What's the rumor? Luo Qiu suddenly asked. The mysterious teacher can make students' grades improve by leaps and bounds, Ma Hao said. Then he quickly began to look at the materials of these students who committed suicide. Sure enough, their grades improved after they joined the cram school. But it's still a teacher? Ren Xiling said helplessly. But doesn't this prove that no teacher can contact these 5 students at the same time? Dead end. Ma Hao sighed. Luo Qiu suddenly said, it's such a big cram school. Is there no one who can get the materials of all the students? Even in school, students usually call those who don't participate in teaching as teachers, right? Yes. Ma Hao nodded quickly. Even if the teacher only manages his own cram school, he can still see all the students. For example, the operator or the person who manages the materials. He subconsciously looked at Ren Xiling and blurted out, sister-in-law, the direction of our investigation may be wrong from the beginning. Well, maybe it's not these teachers, Ren Xiling nodded. But in this way, the scope of the investigation is greatly reduced. There are only a few students who can be contacted by the cram school. You're a great help. Ma Hao laughed and patted Luo Qiu's back heavily. I have many subordinates, but none of them have thought of using a table to summarize them. You're really my brother Luo's son. Luo Qiu felt that even if his father was still alive, he might not necessarily use this kind of EBSB. His father belonged to the older generation of police officers and had rich experience. But in fact, he was not good at these relatively modern things. Ma Hao hurriedly packed up the materials and said, I have an idea. I have to act quickly. Let's call it a day. I'll come again when I have time. Luo Qiu, good boy. You're a great help. It's a pity that I don't have a daughter, or I'll definitely let her marry you. Boss Luo shook his head. After sending Ma Hao out, Ren Xiling tiptoed into the living room. She glanced at Luo Qiu, who was lowering his head to tidy up the tea set. She stuck out her tongue and tiptoed back to her room. Stop! Unexpectedly, Luo Qiu's cold voice floated over. Ren Xiling said with cold sweat, Oh, just leave the things here. I'll tidy them up later. I don't want to talk about this, and I don't expect you to do housework. Luo Qiu said indifferently, Did Uncle Ma say us when he looked at you? Did he? You must have misheard. Well, I'm part of it. After all, sub-editor Rin couldn't resist his sharp eyes. She was defeated and intended to confess. I just went to class and inquired about some things. Ren Xiling sat upright. She swore that she didn't sit so upright even when she was a good student. Go take a bath and go to bed early, Luo Qiu said suddenly. Rin Xiling was stunned. Aren't you angry? Luochio said indifferently. Is it useful for me to be angry? If I'm not in the mood, just do what you want to do. Don't mind me. It's not good for you to suppress yourself all the time. If you can't live out what you want, you'll have what you want. Rin Xiling was stunned. She thought she would be scolded, but she didn't expect to be supported. She thought she misheard. After being stunned for a while, sub-editor Rin suddenly walked to Luochio's back. She put her hands on his shoulders and rubbed attentively. You're so sensible and cute. Come on, Mommy will reward you. You must be tired after using your brain so much. Ruru's head? You'd better continue to suppress yourself. Rin Xiling gritted her teeth, pinched her fingers into a horn, and started to drill on Luochio's head. At night, the surrounding office buildings were already dark, including this floor. The cram school's floor was also dark, but there was a faint light coming from the computer screen. Someone sat in front of the computer, narrowing his eyes and showing a cold smile. To be continued. Chapter 343. Geniuses remember love in 1 second divided by small. This is a wonderful novel for you to read. Sir Ma, this is the information of the cram school staff. Love, go small, say, although none of the brats in the office thought of making those troublesome but useful forms, they were still able to investigate a person's background quickly. The young police officer looked at Officer Ma. Looking at his smiling eyes, there was a subtle feeling in his heart. Sir Ma? Oh, I'm listening. Ma Howd coughed. Tell me about it. Including the legal representative of the cram school, who is also its investor, there are 17 employees in total. The rest are retired teachers who were hired by the school. Tell me about the employees and the boss. The boss is Dai Yukai, 47 years old. He used to work in the education department. He started a business after resigning a few years ago. He seems to be doing well. This year, he invested in a new cram school. The young policeman said loudly, but except for occasional meetings, he seldom comes to the cram school. His personal assistant, Su Zhao, is in charge of the basic business. Oh, this assistant is the manager of the cram school. From the manager to the accounting department to the purchasing department and even the receptionist at the front desk, all the information was presented to Mahoud in detail. According to the different functions, Mahoud quickly locked onto a few people who were worth paying attention to. He quickly circled the names of several people in the notebook and said, the student's suicide happened more than a month ago. This cram school has been open for almost 2 months before the summer vacation. There was no problem before. He put the names on the table and said, these guys joined the cram school after the summer vacation. Keep an eye on them. See if they have any contact with the students in the cram school. In addition, keep an eye on the boss, Dai Yukai, and his assistant, Su Zhao. Yes, sir. The young policeman straightened up and replied. By the way, have you found Shimei Huan? Mahoud suddenly asked. No, we called Gu Feng this morning. He said that Shan Mei Huan was still not back, and he couldn't get in touch with her. It's been 3 days. Mahoud nodded. It's been more than 48 hours. Ask some of your brothers to search for him. All right. After a while, realizing that his subordinate hadn't left yet, Mahoud couldn't help but frown. Is there anything else? Only then did the young police officer dare to ask, Sir Ma, do you still want me to continue doing your homework today? Sir Ma. Mahoud was stunned for a moment before he roared. Get out of here and get to work. Yes. Dai Yukai was 47 years old this year. Strictly speaking, he was still in the prime of his life, but he was probably on the last bus to the prime of his life. But even so, he was still ambitious. However, he was already over 40 years old. No matter what, there was no way he could continue to climb up the ranks of the unit and department. Before he resigned, he was just a small boss in an office. But even so, it almost took him more than 10 years. But in the unit and department, a person without a foundation was always a person without a foundation. He was not the kind of lucky person who could rise all the way to a higher position at a young age. Since he couldn't find a better way, he might as well choose another one. Only a few years later, his income had been unimaginable. As long as he could break some rules and seize the opportunity quickly and accurately when it came. The driver stopped downstairs of the building where the cram school was located. Dai Yukai tidied up his sleeves, then walked out and looked up. To be able to rent an entire floor in a place like this where every inch of land was golden, who said that he couldn't afford it? In fact, not many people knew that his property was also in another building opposite this one. "Mr. Dai, you are here." At the front desk of the cram school, two receptionists stood up quickly when they saw the boss. Dai Yukai nodded and said indifferently, "Is Su Zhao here?" "Manager Su is in the office." The receptionist quickly said, "Mr. Dai, I'll inform him for you." "No need, I'll go there myself." Dai Yukai waved his hand. Before he left, he suddenly looked at another receptionist. At the same time, he reached out his hand and pointed at his chest. The receptionist was stunned and looked down subconsciously. It turned out that the badge on his chest was crooked. "Pay attention next time." "I know. Mr. Dai, I'm sorry, there won't be a next time." Dai Yukai walked into the office alone with his hands behind his back. The receptionist who was caught was relieved and said with a little fear, "Sister Zhao, I'm in trouble. The boss must have a bad impression of me." "Lu, the boss is a good person. Don't think too much." The receptionist called Sister Zhao smiled and said, "It's just a small matter. He'll forget about it in a while." "I hope so." Lu shook his head and then glanced at the place where Dai Yukai left, saying, "But the boss's eyes are really scary." "Well, let's stop chatting. Someone is coming." Sister Zhao pointed at the door. A girl in casual clothes was looking around in front of the door. She was a little petite and had the appearance of a petite and delicate girl. At this moment, she was still eating snacks. After a while, the girl pushed the door and walked to the front desk. "Miss, what can I do for you?" Sister Zhao showed a professional smile. Only then did the girl let out an "oh" and said, "Yes. Is there a fixed time to register for classes here? I want to register for several classes." "You can register during working hours." Sister Zhao took out the form and said, "Miss, you can fill in this form first." The girl was very fast. She filled in a while and handed it to Sister Zhao. Sister Zhao glanced at her and then at the girl. She then smiled and said, "Miss Zhu Li, right?" "Yes." The girl smiled, "But you can call me Lizzie." "Okay." Sister Zhao whispered, "There's no problem with this form. You can go through the formalities next time with the tuition fee and your student ID card." "Oh." Lizzie nodded and swallowed the last octopus ball that she had just bought on the street. Then she left. When Dai Yukai was about to knock on the door, the office door was opened and a woman he had no impression of walked out. She seemed to be a little flustered. She lowered her head, said hello quickly, and left quickly. Dai Yukai frowned and walked into the office. In the office, Su Zhao, who was about 34 or 35 years old and dressed in a suit, quickly stood up. "Boss, you are here." Dai Yukai suddenly snorted. "I let you come here to help me with my business, not to play with women." "Boss, I was just discussing something." "Enough." Dai Yukai snorted again. "Don't I know your virtue? If it weren't for your father's help, I wouldn't have helped you." Su Zhao didn't dare to say anything. Dai Yukai sat down, and Su Zhao quickly fetched a glass of water. He didn't dare to sit down, so he stood beside Dai Yukai. "Boss, why did you suddenly come here today? Is there a meeting today? What kind of manager are you? Don't you know if there's a meeting?" Dai Yukai glared at him with a straight face. Su Zhao lowered his head awkwardly. Dai Yukai sighed and shook his head. "I have an appointment with some teachers today, so I came here to have a look at the situation here. And I just want to remind you about those students. I have an old classmate who is familiar with the leader of the police station. They talked about it during the meal and said that they have filed a case and are investigating it now." Su Zhao was stunned. Didn't they say it was suicide? Why do they still want to file a case? Dai Yukai snorted. "Don't you know that those who died were from our cram school?" Su Zhao was frightened, but, boss, is there anyone who wants to mess with you? After all. Chapter 344. Genius remembers love in 1 second divided by small. Here's a wonderful novel for you to read. On the bench of the riverside park, Shenmei Huan was telling her son something about the past. A long time ago, she would take her son here for a walk after dinner and enjoy the night view of the city. Of course, Gufeng was always with her during that time. Although she didn't want to think about this man, ironically, those days were the happiest days of the family after the reorganization. But the wind was unexpectedly noisy. Shenmei Huan's son hat, which she wore in order not to be recognized, was blown away by the wind. "Wait for me here." Shen Meihuan stood up and said. The boy, who was sitting on the bench with his back straight, nodded his head. He still did not speak, but he began to show some reaction. It was a good thing that he understood what she meant, wasn't it? The moment Shen Meihuan walked away, a person was sitting on the bench. It seemed that no one had noticed his existence. It was the boss of the club. "What are you thinking now?" The boss of the club seemed to be talking to himself while looking at the river view in front of him. But obviously, the boy didn't respond to anyone's words. But the boss didn't ask further. Luoqiu tried to feel the boy's thoughts from his sight. Even though he knew better than anyone that this big boy in front of him was still very, very far from being a real person. It had been a long time since he fell from a building and was sent to the morgue. Even if Shen Meihuan's request was fulfilled, she could only make him recover the reaction of a living body at most. Maybe he would have a very weak consciousness, even a little bit of obsession. Would he hate her? Luoqiu took back his sight and looked at the boy. The boy's eyelids seemed to twitch slightly. Luoqiu didn't know if that was his answer. Luoqiu nodded and stood up at the same time. He needed to leave. Shen Meihuan picked up the hat and came back. He just came to see the man who should have been dead. Shen Meihuan didn't see or even find out who had come to her son. She walked back quickly and looked at the sky. Then she pulled her son up and was ready to leave. Luoqiu silently watched the backs of the mother and son disappear into the distance. With his hands clasped behind his back, he suddenly looked at another corner. There was also a pair of eyes silently watching the backs of the mother and son. He was wearing a mask, a hat, and a pair of sunglasses. You can't see what he looks like. He just started to move and quietly followed Shen Meihuan. He was also lowering his head and acting suspiciously. And what was he thinking about? Knowing that this suspicious person had left, the club's boss also turned around and disappeared into the crowd. Did anyone know that he had been here before? The answer was no. Lizzie held the pencil between her nose and upper lip. She balanced the pencil well and tried not to let it fall. It was the only thing she could do to pass the time in this boring class. Otherwise, she felt that she would fall asleep on the table. Otherwise, how could staying here be more attractive than eating a sumptuous meal? In fact, if it weren't for the task given by Sister Run, Lizzie would have never thought that she would sit in the classroom one day. The last class should be in the 31st year of Showa. It's been 60 years. Lizzie sighed. That time really passed quickly. However, although it was very boring to listen in this kind of class, she was actually quite interested in the matter behind it. Sister Ren's plan was very simple, or the plan she discussed with Ma Haud was very simple. Although the range of the mysterious teacher was locked, if the teacher didn't take any action, it would be a desperate situation. Of course, Ma Haud didn't intend to give up the investigation of these people, but on the other hand, he planned to take the initiative to lure the snake out of its hole. The 5 dead people were all high school students. It was difficult to arouse the interest of the teacher since he and Ren Xiling sneaked into the adult tutoring class together. But it needed a bait to lure the snake out of its hole. So Ren Xiling felt that Lizzie, who had a baby face and didn't look like a 23-year-old girl on her ID card, was very promising. As for whether this matter would be dangerous or not, Ren Xiling thought about it, and combined with the information she got from Ma Haud, she speculated that the mysterious teacher didn't meet the students directly, but contacted them through mobile phones. Otherwise, there would be a situation where no students knew the true identity of the mysterious teacher. So, once a strange message was sent to Lizzie's mobile phone, she would inform the police immediately, and then the police would interact with the mysterious teacher behind the scenes. Of course, in order to protect Lizzie as much as possible, 2 plainclothes policemen were arranged to protect her. Actually, I don't need to be protected, Lizzie thought silently. She didn't think that ordinary people could do anything to her. Of course, she didn't intend to refuse. Sure enough, I was right to think that I would encounter a lot of interesting things with Sister Ren. Lizzie began to look forward to it. Who was this mysterious teacher? Would he be delicious? However, after synthesizing the background and situation of the 5 victims and fabricating the information, Lizzie came here for 3 days, but she still didn't find anything. It's so boring. Lizzie rested her chin on her hand and yawned. She had already escaped to the bathroom, closed the door, and secretly ate snacks. It seemed that two more girls came in at this time. Lizzie didn't care, but just listened to the two girls' discussion about clothes, handbags, and so on. She found that the students here seemed to have a lot of pocket money. The girls all used famous brand bags, and some wore nice jewelry. And the boys also talked about expensive things after class. 4,500 yuan. It's a little expensive. I can't afford it. I'm going to eat dirt this month. How about we go to Mr. Su? The topic suddenly changed. Lizzie sensed that something was wrong. Mr. Su should be the manager of this cram school, Su Zhao, who likes to fool around with boys and girls. In the whole cram school, he was the only one surnamed Su. But I can't afford it. I don't have enough money. How about Su Zhao? The scientific name of some kind of money transaction suddenly appeared in Lizzie's mind. He won't let the students go, will he? Lizzie despised him secretly. She recalled that she occasionally saw this guy in a suit passing through the corridor in the past 3 days. He looked like a beast in human clothing. But these two girls used the word again, which meant that it was not the first time they met him. What a self-degenerate. Lizzie shook her head and lost interest in listening. But the girl suddenly said, "This, aren't you afraid? You're talking about the people who jumped off the building?" The other girl's voice suddenly lowered. "Yes. Didn't they all participate in it?" "You mean, I don't think so. I don't want to do it anyway. I feel a little regretful when I think about it." They seemed to want to say something, but suddenly stopped. At this time, someone came into the washroom. Lizzie heard the sound of footsteps and the door closing, but she couldn't hear the two girls' voices. Lizzie frowned, quickly stuffed the snacks in her mouth, and then took out the phone. "Hello, Sister Run. There seems to be a situation here. Let me tell you just now." Blackwater returned to the hotel with a big bag of things. It was not the first time that the owner of the hotel saw this thin woman carrying so many things. And she looked so relaxed. Generally speaking, Blackwater would not stay here. But today she went to the front desk, a little abnormally. The uncle was immediately overwhelmed by the favor. But Blackwater asked indifferently, "Did the mother and son on the 3rd floor check out?" "Oh yes, they just checked out today." "Why, Miss Blackwater, do you want to see that lady?" The owner tried his best to strike up a conversation with her. However, Blackwater merely nodded and walked upstairs. No wonder she felt that the corpse aura here was much fainter than before. It seemed that Shun Mei Huan didn't want to see her. Blackwater opened the door of the room. Piggy, the most gluttonous of the little monsters, immediately pounced on her bag. Blackwater smiled and began to distribute food to the children. Looking at the innocent children, Blackwater suddenly thought that if one of these children left her one day, would she also be like Shin Mei Huan? Blackwater suddenly quivered. She had followed Shin Mei Huan for some time, so she was sure that this woman was just an ordinary person. It was impossible for a normal person to have the ability to turn a dead person into such a state. As for the refining of corpses, it was generally the strength of the people from Shaanxi. However, with their superficial skills that had been passed down until now, it seemed that it was impossible to create such a strange state. Could it be? She subconsciously thought of the mysterious shop that walked the world and the boss that she had only met once. If it was the shop that claimed that everything could be bought, then it was not strange that Shun Mei Huan's son was alive. "Sister Blackwater, don't you want to eat?" Little Rabbit Demon Ling Ling walked to Blackwater's side and asked with her round and red eyes, "What are you thinking about?" Blackwater lowered her head and stroked Ling Ling's head, whispering, "I'm thinking that no matter what, I won't let you get hurt. I won't let you leave." Chapter 345. The sky was not very blue, even a little gloomy, just like his mood now. Ding Dong Shang sighed, sitting absent-mindedly on the back stairs of the classroom. But he was not alone here. As a good place to escape from the teacher's sight, there was never a shortage of visitors. Right now, it was class time in this city's number 4 high school. The two boys quietly sneaked here, smoked, and chatted. One of the boys was stunned when he saw Ding Dongsheng sitting on the lower floor. "Why, do you know this guy?" His companion asked curiously. He shrugged and said, "He's the top student in our class." Shouldn't the top student stay in the classroom and listen to the class? His companion sneered. Where's the top student? Probably in a bad mood. He said casually, didn't a girl jump off a building in our class last month? I heard that Ding Dongsheng had a good relationship with her. It turns out that his wife died. His companion suddenly said, no wonder. But it seems that there was another one who jumped off a building a few days ago. The TV said it was a boy from the school next door. Now the pressure is so great. Even the top students are about to jump off a building. Should we go back to the furnace? Don't talk about this, it's disappointing. Let's think about where to play after school. He skipped this topic quickly. So they began to discuss. They didn't know when Ding Dongsheng left. They didn't know that Ding Dongsheng said to himself before leaving, Rong didn't commit suicide. Someone must have forced her to do so. Ding Dongsheng didn't go back to the classroom immediately. He came to the back stairs because he didn't want to be disturbed. So he chose to go to a deserted place behind the school library. He almost trotted all the way. Ding Dongsheng stopped at this moment. In front of a green tree, he punched the tree trunk with all his might. More than a month had passed. Although the summer vacation was not over, as a senior, they had already started classes. But only more than a month had passed, but no one mentioned that there was a girl in the class. Her name was Xiao Rongrong. Only he always remembered this girl, her smile, her words, her appearance, everything about her. We clearly agreed to hand in the big one together, but why did you? Ding Dongsheng leaned weakly against the tree trunk. The sky was getting darker, as if it was about to rain. But why did you change? They went in and out of the library together, stayed together after school to discuss exercises, went to cultural parties together, and quarreled over performances. They also cared more about each other because of their quarrels. Why did he change? Why did he start to become cold and distant? Was it because of that man's appearance? It was not the first time that Ding Dongsheng had quietly waited for her to appear downstairs, but it was also not the first time that he had seen her get out of a man's car. Don't worry about me. Our world is different. Study hard. I don't want to go to Jiaodong University anymore. He remembered the last time Xiao Rongrong had said those words to him not long after the start of the summer break. Ding Dongsheng seemed to have lost all his goals and hid at home for an entire week. But he never would have thought that after that meeting, it would really be like what Xiao Rongrong had said. They had completely become people from two different worlds, and she had become the third person to commit suicide. Su Zhao. Ding Dongsheng couldn't get rid of the name of the man who had changed Xiao Rongrong's life. Although the police confirmed that Rongrong had jumped off the building by herself, Ding Dongsheng didn't want to believe it at all. Su Zhao must have something to do with Rongrong's death. Do you want to take revenge on this man? Suddenly, a voice rang in Ding Dongsheng's ears, but it seemed to come from the bottom of his heart. It was hoarse, unpleasant, and sharp like an old witch's voice. What he didn't know was that there was an even darker thing surging in his shadow. It slowly turned into a blurry shadow and separated itself from him. That was the voice of Black Soul 18. I also hide in the toilet from time to time. Why haven't I heard of such things? Rin Xiling was like a defeated dog, staring at the pair. Was this the European popularity of newbies? Just like how people who had never played cards could inexplicably win the first round? Sister Run, I feel so much pressure when you look at me like this. Rin Xiling shrugged. This was a cold drink place near the cram school, and the time was after the cram school. Rin Xiling thought for a while and said, according to what you said, Su Zhao is at most a scumbag who fooled around with female students. There are many such scumbags in society. But did the two girls really mention the deceased? Lizzie nodded. It seems that they have done something together. And from the conversation of these two girls, I'm afraid there are more than that. What could it be? And Rin Xiling thought for a while, then nodded and said, it's already very good to know about this. Lizzie, you've really helped me this time. I have to inform Ma Howard right away. I feel that this matter is getting more and more complicated. My intuition tells me that it will be dangerous. Let's just give it to the police and look for clues. Lizzie was stunned. Hey, Sister Rin, with your character, shouldn't you go deep into the tiger's den? What's wrong? Rin Xiling blew the cigarette. Maybe a few years ago, but it's different now. Although our duty is to report the truth, we should not cross the line if we can. Like this time, it's still within the scope of undercover investigation, but it's the work of the police if we go further. Lizzie didn't believe Ren Xiling's nonsense. She blinked and smiled. Is it because of Luochio? Ren Xiling said naturally. Isn't it the duty of a family to not let them worry too much? That day, Luochio asked her to be more open and do something she liked. But how could Ren Xiling really be unscrupulous? When she returned home, it was more important than anything to have someone to say welcome back to her. Therefore, although she didn't charge into the trap like before, she could still carry out some investigations. Even if she was in the second line of work, she could still help a lot. She didn't lose her conscience. That was enough for her. Family. Lizzie dug a piece of ice cream and put it into her mouth. She felt the ice cream melting slowly. Family. What would family be like? She didn't know. She had never had such an experience of having a family since she was conscious. Hey, is that Su Zhao? Ren Xiling turned her head and looked behind Lizzie. Lizzie turned her head and looked. Su Zhao was walking out of the bar with a woman in his arms. If she didn't see wrong, the woman seemed to be one of the employees of the cram school. Ren Xiling couldn't help but disdain. This scumbag is really suitable for all tastes. Student, young woman. I remember this woman seems to be married. You said he's a scumbag, Lizzie replied. But at this moment, both of them opened their mouths slightly. Because at this moment, a man wearing a hat and a mask suddenly rushed towards Su Zhao. Su Zhao didn't react and was knocked to the ground. Do you have eyes? Su Zhao shouted angrily, but his face suddenly changed because the guy who bumped into him was holding a utility knife in his hand. The utility knife that had already pushed the blade out was now pressed against his cheek. Let's talk it out. Bro, I didn't offend you, right? Su Zhao's hands trembled. The woman he brought along also screamed at the same time. At this time, there were many customers sitting in the open-air area outside the bar. At this time, they all stood up in a panic. Some were busy taking photos, some thought that this was a show to watch, and some wanted to call the police, but no one came forward to help. Scumbag, the masked man shouted. Why did you kill Rong Rong? Rong Rong? What Rong Rong? Su Zhao trembled. Bro, I don't know who you were talking about. Did you get the wrong person? Let's talk it out. Can you take the knife away first? Xiao Rong Rong. Did you forget? The masked man's voice was more suppressed. It sounded more like a roar, even though his voice was so low. Xiao Rong Rong. Xiao Rong Rong. I remember. Su Zhao was scared by the knife and sweated. I didn't kill her. She committed suicide by jumping off a building. The police proved it. You didn't. The masked man seemed to become agitated. You took her with you every day. Now you have another woman. You scumbag. Don't be agitated. Su Zhao panicked. Her death has nothing to do with me. I didn't do anything to her. She did it willingly. What did you do to her? The masked man suddenly pulled out the utility knife in his hand, as if he was going to stab him. Wait, I'll tell you. Su Zhao suddenly shouted at this time. The masked man was stunned and his hand froze. But at this moment, Su Zhao quickly grasped the utility knife in the masked man's hand and quickly punched the masked man's face. This punch made the masked man see stars and feel dizzy. Seeing this, Su Zhao grabbed the masked man and pinned him to the ground. The situation was reversed. You are so small. Su Zhao spat and pressed the masked man down. He lowered his head and said fiercely, How dare you touch me? You are dead. Xiao Mei, call the police. Su Zhao looked up at the woman he brought and ordered. The masked man struggled excitedly, but his body was much smaller than Su Zhao's, so he couldn't get rid of him. Let me tell you, Xiao Rongrong's death has nothing to do with me. Su Zhao sneered and leaned close to the masked man's ear. But I know what she tastes like better than you. Are you her boyfriend? Or unrequited love? But you haven't touched her, right? Let me tell you, this woman is a fickle, self-degrading, and greedy bitch who can sleep with anyone. Let me go. The masked man flapped his limbs like a wild beast. It's you. It must be you. You seduced her. You made her change. It's you. The police are coming. I don't want to talk to you. Su Zhao snorted. But let me see who you are first. I will remember your face. Don't think this is over. How dare you threaten me with a knife? When Su Zhao was about to tear off the masked man's mask and see his face, a cup flew out of nowhere and hit Su Zhao's back hard. He screamed in pain. The cup was like a stone, and it hurt so much when it hit his back. That bastard attacked me. Su Zhao looked around angrily, but the masked man got rid of him at this time. The masked man didn't look back and rushed out of the crowd. Su Zhao was so angry that his neck turned red. It was unrealistic to catch up with the masked man, and it was even more unrealistic to find out who attacked him. There were too many onlookers here. Damn, my masked man is awesome. You're awesome too, Sisterin. Where did you learn to throw the cup? It's so accurate. When Ren Xiling and Lizzie saw that the masked man had escaped, they quickly followed him. However, the masked man directly grabbed a taxi on the road and left calmly. It seems that we can't catch up with him. Sister Ren, where's your car? Lizzie said with disappointment. Don't mention that broken car. Ren Xiling shook her head. I thought I could get some information from the masked man. Xiao Rongrong. I remember she was one of the students who committed suicide. Who is this masked man? The two women couldn't discuss, so they left with doubts. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. Ding Dongxing's mind was full of just a little bit if he didn't hesitate at that time. He had got out of the taxi, took off his mask and hat, and threw them on a nearby trash can. Now, he was walking alone on the street. He clenched his fists, and his knuckles were even a little pale. Su Zhao's words kept echoing in his mind, and every time it sounded, it made him feel worse. He instinctively didn't want to believe every word that this man said. What self-degradation? What money grubber? What fickle woman? It must be his temptation that made Rongrong like this. It must be 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 him who killed Rongrong. It must be him who abandoned Rongrong and made her commit suicide. It must be Su Zhao. I won't let you go. I won't let you go so easily. But what can you do? Just a little bit, but it's still a little bit. You can't do anything. The sharp voice of an old witch began to sound in Ding Dongxing's heart. He subconsciously looked at the glass of a shop next to the street and looked at his reflection on the glass. He saw his own reflection looking back at him, as if it was alive. Looking at his own reflection, it was looking back at him with disdain and a cold smile. You're just a student. You can't do anything. Su Zhao is a member of society, and he knows people from all walks of life. Besides, you don't have any evidence, so you can't avenge Rongrong. You're a useless man. I'm not. Ding Dongsheng looked at his own reflection and suddenly roared. I'm not. I'm not. I'm not. He even crazily touched and beat the glass on the cabinet and his reflection in the glass. I'm not. Chapter 346. The gloomy weather that had been brewing for a whole day finally came to an end when it was almost 9 o'clock at night. It was neither too heavy nor too light. It was a moderate rain. Luo Chio opened the door of the club. There were very few pedestrians on the road when it rained, so the road naturally became deserted. It was a good time to look at the city. He was ready to go home. As long as he was in this city, he would choose to go home at this time because it was very convenient to go back and forth. But since it was a moderate rain, he planned to go home safely. But Boss Luo had to give up his plan immediately. At this moment, a person was standing outside the club in the rain, letting the rain beat on him. It was a big boy who looked to be about 17 or 18 years old. The rain washed away the hustle and bustle of the street, but it didn't wash away the smell of black soul on the boy. Luochio could distinguish the source of the smell. He had smelled this smell before, the smell of black soul 18. What a diligent messenger, Luochio thought. Luochio slowly returned to the lobby of the club. He knew the boy was about to come in, because he was about to see the door of the club. Make a cup of ginger tea. Luochio looked at the servant girl and ordered softly. That day in class, I wrote something on the eraser and planned to pass it to her, but I accidentally threw it over my head and dropped it on the ground. The teacher accidentally stepped on it. This Annie was wearing high heels and almost fell down. She and I both knew what happened, so we were very happy. He was talking about the things that happened between him and the girl. Scene after scene, it was as if it had just happened yesterday. Ding Dongsheng and Xiao Rongrong. A cup of warm ginger tea didn't seem to make him feel the coldness of the rain, but these memories seemed to bring him warmth. Luaccio was used to listening to other people's stories. He didn't care about the time to go home. When a guest needed an audience, he was always a good one. It was as if every little thing was a memory that Ding Dongsheng could recall, until he had nothing to say, and spoke of all the little memories that were hidden in his heart. Only then did he suddenly fall silent, not knowing what to do. And what else? Ding Dongsheng grabbed his hair with both hands and closed his eyes. There should be more. There should be more. Let me think. There should be more. Slap. He slammed his hands on the table at the same time. His face was ferocious and desolate. There will be many, many memories. We should have a lot of memories. It was all because of that man. It's all because of him that Rong Rong left me. Leave this world. I want this man to taste the consequences. I want him to pay for what he did. I don't want him to have it easy. He looked straight at the boss of the club. There was no fear in Ding Dongsheng's eyes. He was not afraid at all. Hatred had covered his eyes, and anger had also covered his reason. Do you know that once a request is made here, it is not allowed to be changed? Luaccio said indifferently. So before making a request, we allow our guests to think carefully. Do you need it? Ding Dongsheng asked. After a moment of silence, Luaccio said, as far as I know, the police in this city have begun to investigate the cram school. Su Zhao, who you hate, will not be able to escape from the law. That is to say, you want him to be punished sooner or later. Guest, are you sure you want to make such a request? I can't wait, Ding Dongsheng said in a low voice. God knows when the police will investigate. 1 month, 2 months, or half a year. But I can't wait for even 1 day. Even if I assume that he has done something illegal, what can I do to him? Besides, even if he is arrested, what can he do? At most, he will be imprisoned. But Rong Rong, after all, I can't let him have it easy. Luaccio looked straight into Ding Dongsheng's eyes. He felt like his body was being torn apart, but he didn't avoid it. I see. Luo nodded. But customer, how do you intend to pay for it? Ding Dongsheng took a deep breath. He took out a box from the pocket of his clothes. The box was about the size of a palm. The moment the box was opened, a piece of bronze appeared in front of Luaccio. Ding Dongsheng said, I want to use this. This is an heirloom of my family. It is said to be a very valuable treasure. Is it enough? There are some words engraved on the bronze, which looked dim. Luaccio hadn't received such a treasure for a long time. He stretched out his hand and brushed it across the bronze plate. He nodded and simply said, you can use this as payment. Tell me what you want. I want to know whether your request is more than the value of this bronze. Ding Dongsheng said without hesitation, I want to see Su Zhao lose his reputation and suffer so much that he would rather die. Deal. In the rain, Ding Dongsheng ran crazily on the street with a strange smile on his face, as if he was excited, as if he had seen what he wanted to see. He was in such a mess. Master, you don't seem to be interested? Yu Yi, who was tidying up the tea set, saw Luaccio take off his mask and didn't smile. No, I was also interested in antiques at the beginning, Luaccio said softly, but he shook his head quickly. That bronze is a bit interesting. But what is more interesting is that such a treasure has been used for such a purpose by the later generations. Luaccio played with the clown mask in his hand. It reminds me of a piece of news I saw before. In order to please the girl he liked, a child from an ordinary family didn't hesitate to spend all of his grandmother's pension. In the end, he even ran off to rob. Miss Maid said softly, Master, do you want to say femme fatale? Luaccio just smiled. He opened his palm, and the account book of the club's basement appeared in his hand. The account book was opened and flipped quickly in his hand. He was looking at some information, the information of the potential customers that Black Soul number 18 had chosen all along. It seems that our witch lady really likes to use hatred to drive the arrival of potential customers. After a few minutes, Luaccio returned the account book. Black Soul number 18 is good at this. Yui nodded. For a long time, the number of customers who came through Black Soul 18 has always been in the top 3 of all the Black Soul envoys. Hatred is indeed a good thing to stimulate customers. I can see that. Luaccio smiled. He had just met Black Soul number 18 a few days ago, and now she had found a new customer. Moreover, because the club was located in the same city, Ding Dongsheng didn't even need to go through the form of a black card. Before Master wakes up tomorrow, Yi will check all the information about Su Zhao. Miss Maid said directly. Those were things that could be done with one's own ability, so there was no need for the master to do it through the altar. The new master's management style was a little different from the former boss. The previous boss was so busy that he could only get all the information from the altar. As for the new master, he had a lot of free time. No need. Luochio waved his hand. Let him do it. Luochio snapped his fingers. A figure slowly appeared on the ceiling of the club. It was Tei Yinzi. To be exact, it was Tei Yinzi who was hanging on the ceiling. He had been hanging here since the day Luochio came back from Russia. When the customer came, he was hidden by the boss. When the customer left, there was no need to hide. Luochio certainly didn't think this was Tei Yinzi's hobby. The black rope that tied Tei Yinzi was finally broken. The newbie Black Soul was released and immediately knelt on the ground gratefully. As an ancient person, it was normal to express gratitude in this way. Tei Yinzi, the police have been investigating the cram school, but there seems to be no substantial progress. Go and help them. Luochio said indifferently. Since the customer wants to do it as soon as possible, let's ruin Su Zhao's reputation first. Master, I won't let you down. Tei Yinzi felt that he couldn't mess it up this time. Who knew when he would be hung next time? In the rain, Ding Dongsheng finally stopped. He hid under the eaves and cried secretly. In the rain, Shun Mei Huan and her son were watching TV quietly in the newly rented apartment. In the rain, he was wearing a mask and a hat, looking up at the lights of the apartment where the mother and son lived. He followed them here. After leaving the club, Luochio held an umbrella and walked in the rain. After midnight, the rain turned into a rainstorm. Chapter 347. Last night's rainstorm made the temperature in the city drop a lot. Along with the rainstorm, there seemed to be a new typhoon. This city was close to the sea, and typhoons were not new in coastal areas. But wasn't there a lot of typhoons this summer? Compared to last year, there seemed to be more. There were many rumors of floods and floods all over the country. It was all because of the deterioration of the world's natural environment. Who should pay for the destruction of nature? This kind of thing was naturally not the concern of ordinary citizens. They only cared about their livelihood. Because of last night's rainstorm, the sewers in many streets were blocked, so it was difficult to go out early in the morning. Therefore, they only needed to consider which route to change. However, it wasn't because of the traffic jam. Ma Hao's subordinates in the Criminal Investigation Department didn't leave the police station because of it. None of them were late for work since yesterday. They worked overtime. In one night, all the people in the department were dispatched to dig out all the background of Su Zhao. As for the reason, of course, it was because of some clues from sub-editor Run. Su Zhao, according to his monthly tax income, belongs to the high-income group. His annual income should be about 1 million. A young police officer with a pair of red eyes was reporting in front of Ma Yi, but we understand that this person likes to drink, has fun, and is also fond of women. He goes to Liusi Paradise at least 5 times a month, as well as some other entertainment places. According to preliminary estimation, his monthly consumption is at least 100,000 yuan. In addition to the house he lives in now, he has 2 commercial houses, and the monthly loan is 46,800 yuan. Last month, he bought a new Mercedes-Benz with a total price of 800,000 yuan. Okay, this guy must have a financial problem, but it's none of our business. Ma Hao shook his head, but looking at the gap between his consumption and income, we can be sure that this guy must have some other gray income. But this guy is the manager of the cram school. Such a cram school shouldn't do anything to make extra money, right? By the way, we also found out that Su Zhao rented a duplex villa in Jihao International under his name. According to the security guard, many cars were often parked next to the unit, but it seems to have stopped during this period. The lights in that unit haven't been turned on for almost a week. After a pause, the young officer deduced, "We suspect that Su Zhao will do something in this rented place." But it suddenly stopped recently. It seems to be about the same time when we started to investigate the cram school. Hoarse whisper, "Do you think we leaked the information?" Ma Hao frowned. Do you think the people in the department will leak the news? The young police officer shook his head. Mahao knocked on the table for a while. There's no such thing as an impenetrable wall. The sponsor of the cram school is Yu Kai, who is familiar with many influential people. Mahao didn't continue his words. For example, the leader he was talking to was a guy who liked to talk nonsense after drinking a few cups at the dinner table. There must be something fishy about that unit in Jihao International. Let two of your brothers serve it 24/7, Ma Hao said in a deep voice. You need to be patient when handling cases. You can't be anxious at all. Under the premise that there is no evidence, you can only be more patient than the other party and wait for the other party to give themselves away. But Horse Whisper didn't expect that. He didn't have much time to wait. When the young police officer finished reporting and was about to send people out according to Mahoud's order, a police officer on duty in the lobby of the police station came to the department. Horse Whisperer, there's a man outside. He introduced himself as Su Zhao, and he said he would turn himself in. In front of the glass of the interrogation room, Mahoud looked up and down at Su Zhao, who was sitting in the room on the other side of the glass. Was this guy a bit abnormal? He crossed his legs and shook his head. He didn't look like a drug addict, but more like an old man who was listening to music. In fact, through the equipment in the interrogation room, this guy was really humming a tune at this moment. What did you say? Mahoud looked at the young police officer curiously. He pointed at Su Zhao and shrugged. Hey, is the name of the song this guy is humming. It's a song from an industrial heavy metal band. Mahoud gave a start. He didn't care about industrial or agricultural. Horse Whisperer shook his head and walked directly into the room. He slammed the notebook on the table and sat down opposite Su Zhao. Su Zhao, right? I heard you want to turn yourself in. Mahoud said in a deep voice. Who are you? Oh, Officer Ma, hello. Su Zhao sat up straight and cleared his throat. Well, are you? Oh, you misheard me. I wanted to say that I came here because I committed a crime. Mahoud didn't show any expression. He rolled his eyes at this guy, opened the notebook, and grabbed a pen. He lowered his head and was ready to record. Tell me, what crime did you commit? Bribery, organized sex activities, and sex with underage girls. Bribery and what else? Horse Whisperer thought he misheard and raised his head in shock. Organized sex activities and sex with underage girls. Su Zhao said seriously. Officer, did you hear me clearly? Yes, I heard you clearly. Mahoud couldn't believe it. Is there something wrong with this guy's brain? Su Zhao, right? This is not a place to play. Do you know that every word you say will be recorded and used as evidence? Officer, I understand. I completely understand. Su Zhao nodded. I swear, what I'm going to say is what I have done. Officer, I'm guilty. I'm being condemned by my conscience. I want to confess all the bad things I've done. I want to expose the evil that's hidden in the dark. I want to return the world to a bright and peaceful world. Stop. Mahoud waved his hand. Are you a storyteller? Are you trying to fool me? I wouldn't dare. I wouldn't dare to trick you even if I had 100 guts. Su Zhao quickly waved his hands. Mahoud stared at this guy for a while, then sighed. Tell me everything. Yes. Su Zhao let out a sigh of relief and said, First of all, we lure the students with money and grades by selecting students from cram schools. As long as the students are willing, we will have enough customers. Officer, you don't know, but students, especially female students, have always been in short supply. Listening to how Su Zhao coaxed the students to have sex, Mahoud felt it was incredible. What were the students nowadays? Wait a minute. You said that money and material things are important. But what about grades? Mahoud frowned. Su Zhao chuckled. Because some of our guests are the leaders of the schools in the city. It's easy to get some questions from them. They can earn money and have good grades to go back and deal with their parents. It's just a small sacrifice. Of course they're willing. Humph. You make it sound nice. Mahoud said angrily. Those students are not mature yet. You bastard. Officer, I know what you want to say. I'm not a human. I am an animal. I am here to turn myself in. Okay? Mahoud felt like he had punched a cotton ball and had no way to vent his anger. He had never seen such a cooperative guy in all his years of handling cases. Myran took a deep breath and calmed down. He said indifferently, You've said so much, but you're just saying it. What evidence do you have to prove that you did these things? Su Zhao quickly took out the key from his pocket and said, Officer, this is the key to my house. There's a laptop in the closet in my room. All the evidence you want is in there. Oh, right, the password is 273835. Mahoud grabbed the key without any doubt. After thinking for a while, he stood up and said, Wait here, we'll go and check it out right away. Then, Mahoud pushed the door open and left. This is 2F** King Cooperative. Damn it. Half a day passed. When Mahoud entered the interrogation room again, his face darkened. He sat down in front of Su Zhao again. Su Zhao asked directly, Mahoud, how is it? Have you checked it out? Mahoud sneered, yes. It can't be more clear. You did find a laptop in your house and a lot of photos. So many victims. You were good, taking photos while playing with young girls. Aren't you afraid of death? Hey, don't worry about the details. Su Zhao asked nervously. Officer, will I lose my reputation this time? Lose your reputation? Mahoud sneered. That is a light punishment. Now the evidence is conclusive. There is no need to ask. The minimum sentence is 3 years, and the maximum sentence is death. Su Zhao took a long breath and said with a relaxed face, Then I am relieved. Saying this, Su Zhao suddenly lowered his head and knocked it on the table, then stopped moving. Mahoud was stunned and quickly pulled him up, only to find that this guy just fell asleep. Chapter 348. Ran away. In a cafe near the police station, Ren Xiling looked at the private investigator in surprise. Mahoud said helplessly, We went to Dai Yotsai's house on the same day, but he was gone. His wife and children didn't know where he went. They said he ran out in a hurry. We suspect that he heard the news in advance, so he ran away immediately. Ren Xiling frowned. Did Su Zhao confess about the suicide of the students? Mahoud shook his head. No, he didn't. He just confessed the dirty things he did in the cram school. Then he fainted, and when he woke up, Mahoud nodded and said seriously, when he woke up, he seemed to have forgotten what he had done. He was very surprised and even said that we had wronged him. Until we showed him the things we found in his house and the interrogation video, he looked like he had seen a ghost. He didn't believe that the person in the video was himself. He turned himself in, fainted after turning himself in, and forgot after waking up. So weird? Ren Xiling opened her mouth. Could this kind of thing really happen? If she hadn't known Mahoud for so many years, she would have thought that she was reading a nonsense novel. Let's not talk about Su Zhao's abnormality first. Anyway, he is now in the detention room. He can't escape. The things we found in his house can at least put him in jail for the rest of his life. Mahoud frowned. The point is he shouldn't have a close relationship with the students who committed suicide. We have checked his itinerary, and he happened to be on a business trip when the 2 students committed suicide. Old Ma, do you think that this guy threatened the students with the things he had, so they couldn't bear the pressure and were afraid that others would know about it? But it's impossible for 5 people to commit suicide in a row, right? You're right. Ren Xiling nodded, then shook her head, but I didn't expect that Dai Yukai and Su Zhao would be involved in this case. You made a great contribution to the investigation. Treat me to a meal. Mahoud sighed and said, Don't even think about it. My head is about to explode. You don't know what kind of people are buying this kind of service from Dai Yukai. This isn't as simple as a simple organization. There are many more transactions behind the scenes. I suspect that Dai Yukai is just someone else's chess piece, and there is someone else controlling everything behind the scenes. I'm afraid there's a greater interest involved. Ren Xiling asked in a low voice, Who are the customers? Mahoud glanced at Ren Xiling and said expressionlessly, I can tell you the details of the case. Anyway, I know you won't write nonsense. But regarding this, I really can't reveal anything to you. This is an order from the higher-ups. Otherwise, how do you think Dai Yukai can run so fast? All right, Ren Xiling nodded. Since Mahoud also wanted to keep his mouth shut, it could only be said that there were too many things involved behind this. Sub-editor Ren also understood the principle of propriety. She sighed, but if the suicide case is not related to Dai Yukai and Su Zhao, who else could it be? By the way, have you confirmed that these 5 children were all tempted by Su Zhao to do this? Except for Gu Jiajia, the first four were all tempted. Ma Hao looked at the time and said, I can't talk with you anymore. I'm in a hurry. I'm going to close this cram school first. Just like the last time, let's see if we can find anything new. Rin Xiling shrugged. Go ahead, I'll pay the bill. I hope you have good news and can give justice to these children as soon as possible. Ma Hao smiled bitterly. I don't know how these children's parents feel when they know that their children did this kind of thing. Rin Xiling was silent. This was not a topic she wanted to talk about in detail. Under the iron window, Su Zhao was still frightened. His eyes were bloodshot, and there were two big dark circles under his eyes. He had hardly slept these days. No matter how hard he scratched his head, he still couldn't understand why he had come to the police station and even said those words. He only remembered that he fell asleep after drinking the night before. When he woke up, he found himself in the interrogation room. Why did he turn himself in? Those evidence were left deliberately to guard against Dai Yukai. If Dai Yukai turned against him one day, he would have the capital to deal with Dai Yukai. As for the photos of the underage girls, he admitted that it was one of his hobbies. It wasn't that he didn't know what awaited him once these things were exposed, but it was more like a demon in his heart than a hobby. But it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. Su Zhao kept asking himself this question in the detention room these days. Did he turn himself in because he couldn't stand the torture? What he had said in the interrogation video was nothing more than a fart. If he really had a conscience, he wouldn't be so painful and frightened now. Would he spend the rest of his life in prison? The rest of his life? Su Zhao looked out of the iron window, feeling like he was dreaming. He couldn't understand why he turned himself in. Why? Su Zhao knocked his head against the wall of the detention room again and again. How could this happen? His life is over. In the lobby of the club, Ding Dongsheng sneered at the negotiation table near the cupboard. Then, he withdrew his gaze. Don't you want to watch it? Boss Luo asked. No need, Ding Dongsheng said indifferently. Next to him, on a light screen, everything about Su Zhao in the detention room was displayed. Hearing this, Luo Qiu simply waved his hand and the light curtain disappeared. Luo Qiu said indifferently, the evidence found in his home is enough to put him in prison for the rest of his life. Guest, your request for his reputation to be completely destroyed can be considered completed. Su Zhao, on the other hand, is a typical prodigal son. Spending the rest of his life in prison is worse than death for him. Are you satisfied with this kind of pain? Ding Dongsheng didn't say a word. He threw the box with the bronze plate on the table again and stood up. This is yours. Luo Qiu glanced at the box on the table and didn't touch it. He just said softly, thank you for your patronage. You don't have to say it so nicely. Ding Dongsheng said coldly, you're no different from Su Zhao. You are willing to do anything for your own interests. We're doing business, so we won't deny it. Luo Qiu said indifferently. It's good that you admitted it. Ding Dongsheng sneered. Then tell me why you didn't tell me that Rongrong's death had nothing to do with Su Zhao. First of all, Luo Qiu raised his head and said slowly, everything here is paid. We are not obliged to reveal things that you don't know. Second of all, I have already told you that the police are investigating Su Zhao's case. Luo Qiu paused and looked at Ding Dongsheng's pale face. He shook his head and said softly, finally, is it really that important to you whether Su Zhao is directly related to Qiao Rongrong's death? What did you say? Ding Dongsheng suddenly became agitated. He put his hands on the table and stared at Luo Qiu. Didn't you laugh very happily? Just now? Luo Qiu said softly. Didn't you laugh very happily when you saw Su Zhao in pain? At this time, are you thinking about the memories you told me? Even one? Ding Dongsheng stepped back and looked at the club boss with a trace of horror. He was slightly flustered. I don't know what you were talking about. He stepped back until he reached the door of the club. Then he pushed the door open and left without looking back. Miss Maid steadied the door, which swayed because it was pushed open. She looked at her master and whispered, what a cheap and ugly soul. When we go shopping, we don't always find the best ingredients, right? Chapter 349. Taiyanzi stood quietly in the lobby of the club, watching his future owner and the boss of the club playing with the newly collected bronze piece. He wisely didn't make any sound. Luaccio stopped after playing with it for about 10 minutes. Tainzi, you did a good job this time. Although it's a bit rough, it's quite efficient. Tainzi hurriedly became modest. This was the first time he received such a positive praise from a boss since he became Black Soul. He was very happy. He felt that there was almost no place for him to stay in this club. Even Qin Chuyu, the bitch, seemed to have a higher status than him. The feeling of being recognized reminded Tai Inzi of the days when he first entered the mountain gate more than 500 years ago and was praised by his master among many senior brothers and sisters. What the hell? Not counting the 500 years I was trapped here, I was a cultivator who had cultivated for more than 60 years. How could I have such vanity? Quickly praise me more. Master, after this period of time, I have deeply realized my own shortcomings. From now on, I will definitely work harder and do my best for the business of the shop. I will not let down the master's trust and expectations of me. Oh, okay. Luaccio glanced at this old guy. How to say it? At the beginning, I didn't seem to have any expectations. I just wanted to study the transformation process of Black Soul and happen to have you as a suitable material. Well, I'm looking forward to your performance. Boss Luo nodded. Tianzi took a deep breath and deeply bowed to Miss Maid, saying respectfully, "Thank you, Miss Yi, for your guidance during this period of time. Tianzi will keep it in mind." Yi was also a bit surprised. She slightly opened her mouth, but soon it turned into a smile and just nodded. "Master, I'll go out to find a suitable customer now. I'll definitely satisfy you next time. Go ahead." Luaccio waved his hand. Tianzi turned into a black wind and whirled out of the club's lobby. At this time, Qin slowly opened her eyes, saying indifferently, "Born rebellious, it's hard for him to achieve great things." After saying that, this female cultivator who only knew to meditate all day closed her eyes again. Luaccio heard her words, but didn't care much. Whether Tianzi was rebellious or not, it didn't matter to the club. Whether he rebelled or not, he was here under Luaccio's eyes. "You don't need to cook for me tonight." Luaccio handed the bronze piece to Yu Yi and asked her to put it in the basement first. Then he said, "I have to entertain the guests tonight." Of course, it didn't refer to the guests in the club. And other guests. Rin Xiling said that she would invite Lizzie to have a home-cooked meal. This meal was invited by Rin Xiling to thank Lizzie for her help this time. At the dinner table, Rin Xiling raised the red wine glass to uncover the dirty things behind this cram school and eradicate a cancer in the society. Cheers. Luaccio hadn't seen this woman smile for a long time. In his impression, it seemed to have been several years. At that time, she would always be this happy whenever her father caught a criminal or cracked down on some evil. Yes, indeed, Lizzie nodded frequently. Her mouth was stuffed with the freshly fried fillet of lonely fish, but her words were not vague at all. "But it's a pity that we didn't find out the case of the student falling off the building." Rin Xiling also felt pity. Yes, the cram school probably won't reopen. I think the mysterious teacher will still hide. Officer Ma is still investigating, isn't he? If someone really did something bad, he won't be able to escape. Lizzie comforted. "You're right." Rin Xiling adjusted her mood. "Let's be happy today. Let's not talk about this. Let's talk about a happy thing. Boy, do you remember Louis Yin? The girl from Louis Village?" Luaccio gaped. "Yes." Rin Xiling smiled. "Today, the girl sent me an email saying that she will come to our school next week." "Really?" Luaccio nodded, smiling. "That's good. Yes, I hope she can start a new life." Rin Xiling shook the red wine glass in her hand. "Her school happens to be your school. I promise to give her a good welcome when she comes. By the way, she's your junior sister. I think you won't refuse to be her guide, right?" Luaccio. Boss Luo had already dropped out of school. He just didn't say it out. Of course, he didn't want to expose the fact that he dropped out. Luaccio nodded, agreeing casually. He thought that the girl wouldn't say anything. "Why did you agree so quickly?" Rin Xiling gave a start. "I thought you would think it troublesome and refuse directly, so I prepared a lot of words to say. Well, I refuse. F***CK. Do you want to die? Can't you give me some face? There are guests here. Don't you want to be alone?" Let's eat. Luocio didn't want to talk to her, putting some food on Run Xiling's plate. Thank you. Run Xiling raised her eyebrows, showing a complacent look. Was this a family? Lizzie looked at the conversation between the two people. Some things that she couldn't feel seemed to have started to spread at the dinner table from the beginning. It made her feel a little overwhelmed instinctively. Lizzie, why did you stop? Don't you like to eat? Why, it's not to your taste. Ren Xiling asked after looking at the food at this moment. Lizzie quickly waved her hand and said, No. Sister Ren, your family's Luocio's food is really good. For so many years, I've only eaten a few dishes with this taste. I just don't want to eat it all at once. Taste? Ren Xiling gave a start. What kind of taste? Lizzie held the bowl in her hand, showing a trace of nostalgia, and said softly, the taste that can make people feel warm after eating it. This. Ren Xiling gave a start, took a bite, chewed for a while, and said, Is it because of the chili? Lizzie didn't know why, but she laughed out. You're so nervous. Ren Xiling shook her head and said casually, Eat more if you like it. You can come eat more often. Anyway, you're alone in this city and have no relatives. You don't have to be polite. Just treat me as your home. Lizzie nodded her head gently, but she knew that she wouldn't come often. Where's Lizzie's hometown? Luocio suddenly asked at this time. Lizzie thought for a while and said softly, It's a very cold place where it often snows. Ren Xiling was stunned. Lizzie, I remember your resume says that you were born in Hainan, right? That's just the census register. Lizzie shook her head and blinked, but it's not the place where I grew up. If there's a chance, I'll tell you. Where is it? So mysterious? Lizzie said softly, Isn't it good to be mysterious? If I'm a little mysterious, maybe you'll remember me. What are you talking about? You're talking as if you'll disappear suddenly. Ren Xiling shook her head and said, Well, let's not talk about it. Let's eat. Lizzie said, Okay. It took a long time to finish the dinner. When leaving, Lizzie declined Ren Xiling's request to send her back and went downstairs alone. She was used to being alone most of the time. He could eat by himself, sleep by himself, and stay in that small rented room by himself. He could also stay there by himself and not go out for half a month if he had nothing to do, but he would not stay in the same place for too long. Finally, she turned around and looked at the floor where Ren Xiling's house was located. Looking at the dim light that seemed to bring a little warmth to the cold night sky because of the recent rain, Lizzie said to herself, Why don't we stay here for a while? She suddenly smiled and took out an orange-flavored lollipop from the bag. She put it in her mouth and opened her hands, walking alone on the white line of the street. She hummed a little tune that no one knew the origin of. She suddenly jumped a few steps on one foot, like a child playing a jumping game. She thought that not many people would remember her. She was alone. Chapter 350. Ren Xiling was humming a song while washing the dishes. It was the song, Give the World to You, that Luocio had heard before. It had been a few months, but Ren Xiling was still worried about her classmate and good friend in college. Still no news? Luocio asked suddenly when he opened the fridge to get a bottle of mineral water. News? Ren Xiling gave a start. She stopped and looked at Luocio with doubt. Luocio said softly, I'm talking about Tu Jia. Isn't that the song that made her famous? No. Ren Xiling shook her head and sighed. Boss, I'm just humming a song. Why do you think so much? What's wrong with your brain? Water, protein, fat, basically the same as yours. Ren Xiling rolled her eyes. I'm not talking about this. Oh, you're so careful. Why don't you think about it again? Did we miss something in this cram school? Like old Ma said, a bystander's view may reveal something. She grabbed Luocio's arm with such an earnest look, even ignoring the fact that she was washing the dishes and her gloves were stained with foam. Boss Luo slapped her hand away with a disgusted look. He washed his hands at the faucet and then walked to the living room with the cup. Ren Xiling chased after him from the kitchen, saying with an aggrieved look, Can you not be so disgusted? That rumor. Luocio sat down and turned on the TV to watch the news. Say it again. Ren Xiling took off her gloves and sat down. She thought, if there is such a teacher, as long as you can find one, no matter how bad your grades are, you can improve. And if your grades are good, you can go to the next level. What's the reaction of the students? I feel like he's doubtful. Although some students know about this rumor, the cram school students don't seem to be interested in it. Of course, we know about it now, because some students have better ways to improve their grades. I'm talking about the cram school's secret trading of test papers. Run Xiling shook her head and muttered, "If there's a teacher who has this kind of ability, shouldn't he be famous long ago? Even if he didn't want to show off, he must have taught a lot of students with good grades, right? No matter how low-key these things are, they can still spread, right? Then why are there still such rumors?" Luochio continued to ask. Rin Xiling was stunned. She frowned and said, "That's right. Generally, this kind of rumor is just a rumor. Normally, he would just laugh it off and not talk about it anymore, right? But strange. This rumor seems to have been around for a long time. It's as if someone is making it popular. Why do you want to make it hot? Why? Of course, it's to draw attention to it." Rin Xiling suddenly thought of something. She said, "The main character of the rumor is the mysterious teacher. No one knows who this teacher is. Say, if something were to happen, for example, if the police were to investigate, it would be easy for them to investigate the teacher's identity. Did someone deliberately lead us to investigate the teacher's matter? What's the motive? Trying to reduce the possibility of being investigated." Rin Xiling suddenly looked at Luochio and said, "It said that the teacher can improve students' grades, so he must be very experienced in teaching. Even if he doesn't have such experience, he must be someone like Su Zhao who can get the test papers. Our investigation is also in the same direction. But this teacher may be someone who doesn't know how to teach." Luochio didn't say anything. He just listened to Rin Xiling quietly. He may know nothing about teaching, but he has access to all the students' information. Sure enough, he is one of the employees of the cram school. Rin Xiling recalled all the details. There are many offices in the cram school. Except for the employees, no one else has the key to the office. The police also checked all the surveillance routes when they copied the cram school. No one has quietly entered other offices. As Rin Xiling thought about it, she reached out her hand as if she was going to pick up the teacup. However, her teacup was not beside her, but she still touched it subconsciously. Boss Luo gently moved the teacup to her hand with a little affection. Sub-editor Rin didn't notice that she successfully picked up the teacup. After taking a sip, she held the teacup and meditated. Although Su Zhao has never admitted that he has anything to do with the student's death, Dai Yudai and Dai Yudai did it. However, he and Dai Yukai did such a thing. The police have reason to believe that the two of them used the evidence they had on the student to blackmail her. In the end, it led to the student's fear and immaturity, so she chose to commit suicide. Luochio, do you think this rumor is deliberately made up by the real criminal in order to escape? Rin Xiling raised her head abruptly. Let's assume that this person knew about the collusion between Su Zhao and Dai Yukai, so he created this rumor in advance. His purpose was to escape from the situation as a last resort, so that no one would suspect his existence. After all, the cram school incident has been investigated. This kind of scandal involves so many people, and even some officials. Luochio said indifferently, "Is there such a person who is not familiar with teaching and is not even a teacher and can clearly grasp the student's information? There is such a person who can get the student's qualifications openly and even not be suspected. And I've seen her." Rin Xiling took a deep breath. The receptionist at the front desk. All the students' information is written by her. She is probably the person who knows the student's information better than anyone else. Now thinking about it, she even knows the time when Su Zhao and Dai Yukai appear. She is also in charge of serving tea. If she heard something occasionally, F***CK, this receptionist is getting more and more suspicious. Boy, you have helped me a lot this time. Sub-editor Ren was so excited that she suddenly held Boss Luo's face, intending to kiss him on the cheek. She didn't expect that when she kissed him, it was cold. Boss Luo used the mineral water bottle to block the woman's invasion. What the F***CK? I'm just rewarding you. And you're complaining? Ren Xiling was stunned. Luochio said indifferently, "Forget about this kind of reward. If you really want to thank me, please continue to wash the dishes." Don't forget about it, and leave it until tomorrow morning. I, I will wash the dishes. That's what my darling reminded me of last night. In a cafe near the police station. This was a cafe that had been open for more than 10 years. It was also the place where Rin Xiling met the people in the police station from the beginning. Luochio had more memories when his father was still alive. Ma Haud was silent for a while, and then said slowly, "In fact, about this receptionist, we have included her in the investigation at the beginning. As Luochio said, she was on the tracking list of people who had access to the students' information." He then shook his head and said, "It's just that before the investigation started, Su Zhao suddenly turned himself in like a lunatic. But this hypothesis is quite likely. Except for the fact that there is no way to determine her motive, the suspicion is, okay, I'll ask someone to investigate this receptionist as soon as possible." At this moment, Mahaud's phone rang. After receiving the call, he hurried to pay the bill, saying that the leader wanted to see him. "Let me introduce you. This is Wang Yuechuan from the province." Old Lu, the leader of the police station, introduced a young man in a suit to Mahaud. He was about 27 or 28 years old. Mahaud had seen a lot of people. It was easy for him to see a trace of arrogance from this young man. However, a person who could work in the provincial police station at such a young age probably had enough capital to be proud. "This is Mahaud, the most experienced person in our station. Thanks to him, this place is so quiet," Old Lu said with a smile. "Really?" Wang Yuechuan said indifferently, "But I heard that several students committed suicide here in a row. The cram school had to ask the provincial bureau for help. Earlier, there were several cases of murder. Even a child skeleton was dug out from the nearby university. Can you call that quiet?" Old Lu was embarrassed. He cleared his throat and looked at Mahaud. "Comrade Wang is here to thoroughly investigate the cram school. Mahaud, you have to cooperate with him. Don't be lazy, okay?" Chapter 351. Su Zhao Daiyukai, the students and staff of the cram school, are all here. Mahaud put a thick stack of documents in front of Wang Yuechuan, and then said, "Anything else?" "No." Wang Yuechuan said, "Is this room usually quiet?" Mahaud glanced at this place and said, "It's quiet. It's usually used for meetings, so of course it's quiet now." "That's okay." Wang Yuechuan nodded. "I'll just read the documents here. If I need anything, I'll inform you." "Whatever you like." Ma Iran shrugged and left the conference room. Of course, he closed the door with a little force. Outside the door, a group of young police officers hurriedly walked to the side of the private investigator and asked curiously, "Ma Iran, who is this guy? He seems to be very arrogant. More than arrogant. I saw him walk in with his eyes wide open. He didn't even look at us." Ma Haud snorted. "Are you gossips? Don't you have a job? Are you all free? Do you want to patrol the street?" The group of young police officers immediately dispersed. Ma Haud went back to his room and opened the curtains. He could see the situation in the conference room. Ma Iran smoked while looking at Wang Yuechuan's back. Time passed very quickly. It's been almost 2 hours. Ma Haud hammered his waist and found that Wang Yuechuan didn't move for a long time. He couldn't help but feel surprised. This guy was really serious. Suddenly, Wang Yuechuan stood up and opened the door of the conference room and waved to Ma Haud's office. Ma Iran, who was smoking and playing Minesweeper on the computer, was stunned. "My record. Almost. What's the matter?" "Comrade Wang Yuechuan." He tried to make his voice sound less bitter. "My record." Wang Yuechuan walked to the table in the conference room and pulled out a file. He opened it and said, "Officer Ma, although the forensic department determined that the 5 students all committed suicide, why didn't you suspect them because they were all cram school students? Isn't it already under investigation?" Mahaud said calmly. Wang Yuechuan glanced at it indifferently, nodded, and then said, "The person who can get the students' information, the person who spread the rumor, this stalker list is circled by you, right?" Is there a problem?" "No, this is a good circle." Wang Yuechuan nodded and said, "However, we can make it smaller. Let's not talk about the motive. Why did Su Zhao suddenly turn himself in? Have you ever thought that the criminal deliberately made up such a rumor to mislead you? I'm not a teacher. For example, this." Wang Yuechuan turned to a page in the file on which there was a photo of a person, the receptionist of the cram school, Zhao Ru. Isn't this the same as little Luo Chio's inference? Ma Hao was surprised and said subconsciously. This kind of meaningless behavior made him shut up very quickly. But Wang Yuechuan had heard him. He frowned slightly. Who is little Luo Chio? Is he from the bureau? No, he is one of my nephews. Ma Hao shook his head and said, Is he from our system? Wang Yuechuan asked again. Ma Hao could only shake his head. Wang Yuechuan suddenly gave him a feeling of a viper, which was frighteningly sensitive. He even knew what this guy would say next. So he said, Don't worry, I didn't reveal any information about the cram school. I know the rules. But in the end, we need to be flexible when investigating a case, right? I'm just looking for a bystander to liven up my thoughts. This kid is also a family member of our system. His father used to be a member of our bureau, but he died in the line of duty a few years ago. I don't care about the dead, and I'm not interested in what kind of person his father was. Dying in the line of duty can only prove that this person did his duty as a police officer, but I don't think his family members can have any privileges. What's more, he didn't protect himself in the line of duty. Obviously, his ability as a police officer is not good enough. Wang Yuechuan said expressionlessly. As for you, Officer Ma, as a police officer, I doubt your ability if you still rely on an outsider, even if you have done a good job. Ma Hao couldn't control his temper after hearing this. He was not afraid of God. When he was unhappy, he could directly confront the leaders of the bureau. But in his heart, there was still something sacred that couldn't be violated. With a sullen face, he approached Wang Yuechuan and said in a low voice, What do you know? Do you know what Brother Luo is like? Do you know how many people he has arrested? Do you know that when we were investigating a case, you were just a kid wearing open crotch pants? What makes you say that his ability is not good enough? Officer Ma, according to your age, when you started investigating a case, I was indeed just a kid. Wang Yuechuan said indifferently, but at least when I'm investigating a case, I don't hide in my room to smoke or play computer games. I'm just livening up my thoughts, do you understand? I don't have any opinion on your way of thinking. Wang Yuechuan gently tapped the document in his hand. I'm just giving a suggestion, and I hope you can accept it. If I offended you, I'm sorry. I'm a straightforward person. As for this Brother Luo you mentioned, I'll take some time to look at his information. If I'm wrong, I'll apologize to you. But I always think that a police officer who can't protect himself is not a good police officer. Ma Hao took a deep breath to control his emotions. Young man, there's nothing wrong with being arrogant. I hope you can let me appreciate you until the end. And I also hope that you're a good police officer who can protect himself at any time. I will, Wang Yuechuan said indifferently. Ma Yiran took the document and walked out of the conference room without saying anything. Since there was no common language between him and this guy, he didn't want to communicate with him except for work. Before leaving the station, Ma Hao shook his head and couldn't help thinking, but it's so annoying. This guy will suffer sooner or later. Hey, find out where Zhao Ru lives for me. He quickly made a phone call. Now that the provincial government had assigned someone to follow up on the matter behind the cram school, Ma Ili felt that what he needed to do was to investigate the 5 suicide cases. Although those students had done something wrong, they shouldn't have died like this. Ma Yiran just thought that he needed to seek justice for the victims. On the 29th, 9 o'clock in the evening, get on the 3rd intersection next to the old station. 2 seats. Here's the receipt. Pay the deposit first. Shen Meihuan quickly gave the man some deposit and took the receipt. Then she lowered her head and walked away quickly. She thought that it was better for her to leave the city as soon as possible. Today, when she turned on the phone and checked the caller ID and text messages, she knew that Gu Feng had reported her missing. She couldn't appear again like this, and she couldn't let others know that her son was still alive. This was a pheasant car out of the province. She didn't need to register with her ID card to buy a seat. She had to start over somewhere else, just like when she left that family and came to this city with her son. He wrapped himself in his clothes. After the rainstorm, it was still drizzling and a little cold. Shen Meihuan suddenly turned around and looked behind her. Other than knowing that Gu Feng had reported the case, there was another reason why she was in a hurry to leave. She had a feeling that someone was following her these past few days, making her feel inexplicably uneasy. She didn't know who was following her, but when she turned around, she didn't see anyone. Chapter 352. For her, life was very simple, or it was always the same. Gotta go to work, get off work. Smile, silence. Go home. For Zhao Ru, if she had to describe her life with a color, it would be the color of the wall that had been there for decades. But apparently, she was a fastidious person. In this rented apartment, which was less than 10 square meters, there were many places that were fastidious. The wallpaper was newly arranged by himself. Although it was old-fashioned, the floor was spotless. Although it looked rusty, it didn't make a harsh sound when it was pushed open. Presumably, there were many potholes left on the walls of this small room due to lack of maintenance, but they were all covered up with some simple decorations. At this moment, she was cooking for herself. There was no kitchen here, but she could still make a space for cooking if she put in some effort. But when she was cutting vegetables, she suddenly heard the sound of knocking on the door. Theoretically, no one should have come to look for her at this time of lunch. Are you, Mr. Ma? When she opened the door, Zhao Ru was surprised to see one of the students of the cram school. 2 days ago, she had also learned of Mr. Ma's other identity. Yes, she knew his identity. 2 days ago, he came to the cram school with a search warrant with a team of police officers. Oh, you're Officer Ma. Zhao Ru opened the door. What can I do for you? But obviously, she didn't consider letting this undercover police officer join the cram school before he made such a request. Well, we have some questions for you, Miss Zhao. Ma Hao smiled. However, as a seasoned police officer, he had already sensed that the other party had vaguely adopted a defensive posture. He glanced over Zhao Ru. The space inside was not large, so he easily saw a corner of a suitcase on the ground, which seemed to be opened. Ma Hao said indifferently, "Are you cooking? Did I disturb you?" "Oh, nothing." Zhao Ru nodded, subconsciously grasping the necklace pendant around her neck. It was an ordinary, simple, and crude black crystal pendant. Ma Hao suddenly felt a little absent-minded. He subconsciously pinched the space between his eyebrows, feeling a little tired. Zhao Ru continued, "Anyway, I'm alone. What else do you want to ask, Officer Ma? I remember that the last time you came, I already gave you a detailed answer. Is there anything I missed? Is it convenient to go in?" Ma Hao suddenly asked. Zhao Ru said indifferently, "Please wait a moment. I have to tidy up the room." "I understand. I'll wait." Ma Hao nodded. For a single woman to rent a small single room, there must be a lot of content inside. Of course, Ma felt that it was better to avoid them. Zhao Ru closed the door and then opened it again. However, she asked Ma Hao to take off his shoes. Obviously, she was a clean girl. Ma Hao thought. The suitcase was no longer on the ground. Instead, it was closed and placed against the wall. "Ms. Zhao Ru, how long have you lived alone?" "Officer Ma, do I have to answer this kind of question?" "Nothing, I'm just curious." Ma Hao shrugged and said, "Well, Miss Zhao, the police are looking for Dai Yukai. I don't know if he has looked for you in the past 2 days, or if you have heard any news about him. Don't get me wrong, we don't suspect you. We just want to tell you as a matter of routine. After all, you are his acquaintance." Zhao Ru was stunned and let go of the pendant. She thought for a while and shook her head. "Boss Dai? I don't know. I'm not familiar with him. Besides, I'm just a receptionist. How can I be familiar with the big boss?" Ma Hao nodded. "Well, I'm just here to inform you. Ms. Zhao, if you have any news, please tell us immediately." Zhao Ru smiled. "I know, Officer Ma. Oh, I forgot to pour tea for you." "Oh, it's okay." Ma Hao said casually. "I'm leaving now. I have to go somewhere else. I'm just passing by. Sorry to disturb you. Let me walk you out." Zhao Ru nodded with a smile. Ma Hao went downstairs and walked to the car. The young policeman in charge of driving asked curiously, "Ma, did you find anything?" Ma Hao frowned and said, "I saw her suitcase was open before I came in. Then she put it away when she went in. This woman's house is very clean. In fact, there is no need for her to keep me away. Well, this Zhao Ru may want to leave. You call back and ask someone to check the records of all the stations and airports." "Got it." Mahoud glanced at the rearview mirror and pointed to the front. Drive the car to the front and then come back. We'll get off the car and ask someone who knows Zhao Ru. This woman is still watching us. She's so careful. It seems that there is something wrong. The young policeman also glanced at the rearview mirror. Mahoud suddenly pinched his eyebrows and shook his head. Mahoud, are you tired? The young police officer joked. Could it be that you're tired from staring at the comrade from the provincial bureau today? He had been following Mahoud for some time. He knew that Mahoud seldom opened the curtains. Stop talking nonsense. Just drive. Mahoud rubbed his eyes and said impatiently. The car hadn't gone far when the young police officer suddenly said, Hey Ma, isn't that the son of Brother Luo that you always talk about? Mahoud found that it was indeed Luochio. Luochio was sitting alone at the bus stop with a bag of things. Wait for me. Mahoud got off the car. Luochio took off his headphones and turned around when he felt someone patting his back. He showed a surprised expression. Uncle Ma, why are you here? Oh, I happened to pass by while I was working on a case. I saw you, so I came over to call you. Mahoud smiled and said, What about you? Why are you here? Don't you have class? There is no class today. Luochio said casually, I heard that there is a good fruit market nearby, so I came to buy some fresh durians. Mahoud sat down and laughed. No wonder I smelled a fragrance from afar. Xiling likes to eat durians the most. You are so considerate. Don't you like to eat it too? Luochio said softly and took out a box of peeled and packed durians from the bag. You are still working on a case at this time. You probably haven't eaten yet. Eat this. I won't be polite. Mahoud gladly took the box and opened it without hesitation. He ate a piece of it. Sweet. Fragrant. I will buy one later. Mahoud showed a satisfied look and stretched. I feel refreshed all of a sudden. I was a little dizzy just now. I'm really hungry, right? Luochio, your food came at the right time. He seemed to have just taken a shower. He felt refreshed all of a sudden. The tiredness and even the nausea in the car disappeared at once. Really? That's good. Luochio smiled and stood up. The car is here. I have to go now. Oh, come my house for dinner when you are free. I will ask your aunt to cook your favorite braised lion's head in brown sauce. In the car, before closing the door, Boss Luo just turned around and nodded slightly. Ma, we have also asked Zhao Ru's landlord. This woman has no friends. She seldom goes out except for work. It seems that no one has seen her with a boyfriend. We have also asked Xiao Lu, another receptionist to the cram school. Zhao Ru almost never talks about personal matters during working hours. She is very serious about her work. She often stays to complete the receptionist's work after work. We have checked the street CCTV near Zhao Ru's apartment. We found that she went out last month on the 2nd, 17th, 20th, and the 6th of this month. She didn't come back until 12 o'clock. When he heard this, Mahoud was stunned. Number 17, 20th, 6th of this month? Yes, it's the same time when the students fell off the building. At the same time, a policeman rushed over and said directly, Ma, we have found it. Zhao Ru did buy a train ticket to Yunnan. But when we checked her ID records, we found that she was not born in Yunnan. She has no relatives in Yunnan. When did she buy it? 3 days ago. Isn't that the day when we copied the cram school? Mahoud frowned. When will she leave? The train leaves at 5 o'clock this afternoon. There are less than 70 minutes left. The policeman frowned. Ma, what do you think we should do? Mahoud stood up immediately. What do you mean by what should we do? Just find an excuse to stop the person from leaving first. If she really leaves the city, it will be troublesome to find her in the future. She bought a train ticket on the same day. This woman is getting more and more suspicious. I'm afraid that she has done something wrong. Mahoud didn't even smoke at this time. He just felt that his whole body was full of energy after eating a box of durian at noon. He was still full of energy until now. The policemen hurriedly prepared the car and were ready to leave. Wang Yuechuan, who stayed in this department, only glanced at them indifferently. After that, he did not move and continued to sit alone in the conference room. He took a moving blackboard and pasted a lot of pictures on it. He drew intricate lines as if he was thinking about something. Before getting on the car, Ma made a phone call secretly. Hello, is that my wife? I won't come back for dinner tonight. Did you make soup? I'll come back later. I promise to drink it up. Oh, if you have time, you can go to Shinfeng Road. I heard that there's a fruit market. The durians there are good. Okay, I'm getting on the car. Ma happily got on the car and drove off. To be continued. Chapter 353. The train to Yunnan Dali is about to start. Passengers who have bought tickets, please go to platform 13. Please take your belongings with you. Please. Xiaoru lifted her suitcase and stood up from the chair in the waiting hall. Gashi habitually looked at her surroundings and prepared to walk to the platform. However, she quickly stopped and walked in another direction expressionlessly. Among the crowd, she saw a man whom she had met a few hours ago. Of course, there were several other people beside him. Their eyes were obviously different from those of ordinary passers-by. Therefore, Xiaoru could easily infer that these people were the same passers-by she knew. They were all police officers. Xiaoru walked towards the washroom in the opposite direction expressionlessly. She walked at a leisurely pace. The more abnormal she was, the more she would attract the attention of these falcon-like guys. Xiaoru walked into the washroom and came out after a while. Looking at the back of those people, Xiaoru smiled. She glanced at the train ticket in her hand and threw it into the trash can. Apparently, she didn't want to get on the train. But when she turned around, the police officer with a round belly was right in front of her. "Miss Xiaoru, where are you going? Why didn't you mention it at noon?" "Officer Ma, do you police officers even care about private activities?" Xiaoru said indifferently. But when she looked back slightly, she realized that someone was already approaching her from behind. She still said calmly, "Officer Ma, may I know why you're here to look for me?" "It's nothing. It's just that there are some things that we would like to consult you about. We would like to invite you to come back and chat with us." "Officer Ma, I'm afraid I can't get on the train." Xiaoru shook her head and said, "Besides, I know that even police officers can't take people away casually." Ma Hao shrugged his shoulders. He had a lot of experience dealing with this kind of wording, and the other party couldn't do anything to him. He took a sip of the Coke he bought on the way and said indifferently, "We suspect that you have hidden dangerous things in your suitcase. Can you let us check it?" "Officer, you have no evidence." "How can you say that?" Xiaoru frowned. Ma Hao said indifferently, "That's why I said I was suspicious. Why don't you just let us check it out? Don't worry, we still have female comrades. You don't mind if a female comrade comes to search, right? Miss Zhao, please cooperate with us." A woman in casual clothes approached. She held an identification card in her hand and showed her identity. "This is the ladies' room. I think it should be very convenient." Xiaoru glanced at the people around her. Except for Ma Hao and the woman in plain clothes, there were several other people around. She nodded and smiled. "All right then, but it's best to be quick." When Xiaoru turned around and walked towards the women's washroom, the woman in plain clothes followed her. However, Xiaoru suddenly turned around with a spray in her hand. She sprayed the policewoman's face with the spray and pushed her towards Ma Hao. Then she tried to escape in a hurry. Unexpectedly, she had only taken a few steps when she suddenly staggered and fell to the ground. It turned out that her heel was hit by something, a cola can. Seeing Xiaoru on the ground, several people hurried forward and held her down. Ma Hao walked over with the policewoman whose eyelids were injured. "I'm good at throwing cans, right? I learned it from a good friend of mine." "Miss Xiaoru, you attacked a police officer for no reason. Please come back with us and tell us the truth." Xiaoru struggled for a while and found that she couldn't get rid of him. She narrowed her eyes and didn't speak. She didn't speak on the way. Her hands were held by the two policemen. It was unusually quiet all the way out of the railway station. The passengers here came and left in a hurry. Soon people forgot that there was a police arrest here. This kind of thing was very common in the railway station. People were used to it. Who would want to take a look at it? But in the crowd, two figures stopped just like that. It was a man and a woman. They were not travelers, but people with long lives. The woman squatted down slowly and picked up a small necklace on the ground. She glanced at it and handed it to the man. This was the necklace that Xiaoru pulled off when she was caught by the policeman. She said, "Master, it should be the pendant on the necklace that made Mr. Ma abnormal." "Well, it's a bit familiar. Have I seen it before?" "Master, do you remember the black diamond in Luang's house?" Although the energy in this pendant is much weaker, it should be from the same source. Lu Zixing. He nodded. Of course, it was because he thought of the mansion and the story of the 3 generations. Luoqiu put the pendant back in the servant girl's hand. Before leaving, he said, "This is interesting. I should ask Zhao Ru how she got the pendant." In front of the mirror in the interrogation room, Ma Hao had been looking at Zhao Ru for a long time, and so did the policemen around him. Normally, prisoners would be uneasy, no matter how hard they tried to hide it. Their uneasiness and anxiety could still be detected from some of their subtle movements. But obviously, this woman didn't. From the beginning, she just sat there with her eyes closed, motionless like a wax figure. But it made the people who were looking at her uncomfortable. "I'll meet this woman." Ma Hao took a deep breath, pushing the door and walking into the room on the other side of the mirror. "Miss Zhaoru, do you know what we found in your suitcase?" Ma Hao asked directly. But Zhaoru didn't open her eyes. Her eyelids didn't even move, as if she didn't hear it. Ma Hao raised his voice. "We found a lot of photos on your laptop. Do you know what I mean?" Zhaoru still didn't respond. Ma Hao snorted. "In addition, there are some photos on your mobile phone. I don't need to tell you the time, right? They're the photos of the scene of the students who committed suicide by jumping off a building. Good job. Miss Zhaoru, you arrived at the scene earlier than us, and the photos are so clear." "Officer Ma, what do you want to say?" Zhaoru opened her eyes slowly. Ma Hao suddenly pounded the table like the thunder god. "Tell me, how did you force these students to commit suicide? Did you use the photos in your hands to blackmail them? Where's the evidence?" "Evidence?" Ma Hao shouted. "Those photos in your laptop, except for the dead ones, there are other illegal activities of the students. Do you dare to say that you didn't take those photos secretly? And why did you go to the scene? We have checked the CCTV of the streets around you. You usually don't go out. Why did you go out at night?" Zhao Ru smiled and said indifferently, "Well, Officer Ma, you have checked so much and found me so quickly. I really admire your ability." She sighed and said indifferently, "I admit that I did come into contact with these students, and I did threaten them. But I just asked them for some money. I don't know why they committed suicide. Let's put it this way, they were afraid of being found out by others and couldn't bear the pressure. Nowadays, students are too weak to bear the pressure." "You dare to say that you didn't force them to commit suicide?" Ma Hao said angrily. "Then why did you come to their house before they died? That was the time of the transaction. Is it always so coincidental? You threaten one, and then another one commits suicide?" "I secretly followed them and took pictures of this kind of thing for the sake of money. Since I didn't get the first one, of course, I have to take the second one." Zhaoru shrugged. "I can only say that I'm unlucky." "Officer, didn't you prove that they all committed suicide? You can say that I blackmailed them, but please don't say that I killed them. This was the most troublesome thing for them. They knew that Zhao Ru was the one behind the scenes, but they couldn't find any evidence to prove that she forced the students to commit suicide. If the truth was the same as what she said, the students committed suicide because of fear. In short, the court always needed definite evidence. 5 lives. These were 5 human lives. Don't you have any burden at all? Are you cold-blooded? It's easy to say. Officer Ma, Zhao Ru said indifferently. Why 5 lives? Do you want to make a false case? Chen Yuli, Zhou Mingxian, Xiao Rongrong, Li Hao, Gu Jiajia. Ma Hao pounded the table angrily. Didn't these 5 students commit suicide because of your blackmail? Officer, I admit that I blackmailed the first 4 students. But I repeat, their deaths have nothing to do with me. Besides, the last one you mentioned has nothing to do with me. I didn't blackmail this person. How dare you say that? Isn't Gu Jiajia also a student of the cram school? Zhao Ru sneered. Didn't you check my stuff? Did you find any information about this student? Besides, since I admitted that I blackmailed him, I won't lie. I don't know why the last student you mentioned died. Ma Hao took a deep breath and said, Continue to sit down. We will definitely pry your mouth open. Ma, I've checked the information in Zhao Ru's notebook. After comparing the information in Zhao Ru's notebook with the information in Su Zhao's house, we didn't find any information about Gu Jiajia. He shouldn't have participated in the cram school. and Zhao Ru's mobile phone didn't have any photos of the dead students. And Ma Hao was stunned. And what? On the night of Gu Jiajia's death, the surveillance camera didn't show Zhao Ru leaving. Ma Hao frowned and said this. Could it be that the child really committed suicide? Chapter 354. In the office, a group of policemen were discussing Zhao Ru's case. This woman is too cunning. The policewoman whose eyes were hurt by the spray at the train station said angrily. She knew that she couldn't escape, so she confessed directly. She knew that the sentence for blackmail was not heavy, so she avoided the serious ones. Yes, the main victims are all dead. We can't find any evidence of Zhao Ru talking with them. She can say whatever she wants. If she asks us to defend her, she will definitely hold on to this point. Another police officer punched his own palm and said bitterly, This is the most annoying situation. Ma Hao rubbed his forehead and thought for a while. She must have contacted these students in private. No matter if it was through letters, short messages, or emails, it's impossible for there to be no trace. Send 2 of you to the telecommunication company and ask them to check all the communication records of the victims and Zhao Ru in the past 2 months. Thinking about it, Mayu quickly said, in addition, let the brothers go to the homes of the deceased family members to take a look. Check if the deceased left anything useful behind. Since it's blackmail, I don't believe that there is nothing left. Ma Hao clapped his hands and said loudly, Well, let's go to work. This battle is not easy. Everyone work hard. After the case is solved, I'll treat you all to a big meal. After that, Ma Iran looked at the young policeman beside him. You go to Gu Feng's house with me. I want to have a look there. Okay. It seemed that the space of the detention room was not much smaller than that of the rented room. It could even be said that without the furniture, there was more room to move around. But Zhao Ru didn't move since she was locked up. She sat on a simple bed very quietly. Next to it was a place for relieving oneself. It was a so-called toilet that was simply built with a cement wall. Well, it didn't taste good. Maybe that was the most unbearable part. Zhao Ru touched her collar subconsciously. However, her movements quickly stopped. From the interrogation room to the detention room, she had always appeared calm, but at this moment, she revealed a little. It was as if his habit had been cut off all of a sudden. The physical and mental reaction of not being able to adapt immediately was like a person who had just started to quit smoking. His body showed signs of withdrawal, and he seemed a little restless. She stood up and looked at the empty bed. Then, she squatted down and looked at the bottom of the bed, which was also empty except for dust. Zhao Ru stood up abruptly and walked 2 steps forward. She grasped the iron bars in front of her and looked at the road. It's gone. How did it disappear? Zhao Ru still grasped her collar tightly, trying to recall everything, every detail. Are you looking for this? However, at this moment, Zhao Ru heard a pleasant voice behind her, a woman's voice. She immediately turned around. Under the dim light of the detention room, she saw a woman who pretended to be abnormally strange, but seemed to be fatally beautiful. His sapphire blue eyes were like the sea, as if they could swallow her up at any time. Zhao Ru could not move her eyes away from the necklace hanging between her fingers. Instinctively, Zhao Ru walked forward and reached out to grab the necklace. But obviously, she couldn't get the necklace back so easily. Mississippi made step back lightly. It was just 1 step, but it was just enough to make Zhao Ru miss the target. Get back to me. You didn't ask me who I am and why I'm here, but the necklace. Mississippi made slightly mention the necklace and smiled. It seems that it's really important to you. Or, you've been relying on it for a long time. Have you been wearing it for a long time? Zhao Ru suddenly shivered as if she had been drenched in a cold rain and then blown by a cold wind. She suddenly stepped back and stopped when she hit the iron bars. The iron bars were not opened. She remembered that the detention room was empty when she came here. How did this weird woman get in? She saw the woman walking towards her slowly. Zhao Ru was frightened. She said in a trembling voice, What do you want to do? The servant girl stood in front of Zhao Ru. She reached out her hand and gently touched Zhao Ru's chin. Don't be nervous. I won't hurt you. Relax. Mississippi made suddenly open her mouth and blew. Zhao Ru felt a breeze on her face and was absent-minded. Seeing Zhao Ru's reaction, Yu Yi smiled with satisfaction. She held Zhao Ru's hand and led her to the bed in the detainment room. Then she sat down. Yu Yi pressed her palm on the back of Zhao Ru's hand and whispered, "Can you tell me where you got this necklace?" "I bought it in a jewelry store in Ingchuan building." "How long has it been?" 3 months ago. "Have you been wearing it?" "Yes. Yes." Yu Yi put the pendant in her palm and looked at it for a while. Then she stretched out her palm again, caressing Zhao Ru's cheek and turning her face towards her. She knew what her master was thinking. Her master didn't ask her to put the necklace back, but gave it to her. That was to say, she could do whatever she wanted with the necklace. What her master wanted to know was how Zhao Ru got the necklace. "Since you have been wearing it, don't lose it next time." She put the necklace back on Zhao Ru's neck. Actually, she's also a beautiful girl. After that, Yu Yi combed Zhao Ru's messy bangs with her fingers and tidied her collar. In the evening, Gu Feng opened the door and saw Ma Haod and another policeman. He was impatient and impolite. "Officer Ma, what are you doing here? Haven't you hurt me enough? If it weren't for you last time, my family wouldn't be like this." Ma Haod didn't intend to be nice to such a person. He said indifferently, "Even without me, do you think you can keep the fact that you have a mistress outside and have a child with her? What else?" Gu Feng leaned against the door and lit a cigarette. "Is there any news about my wife? What are you policemen doing? It's been several days, and there is no news at all." "Don't worry. Since the case has been reported, we will do our job." Ma Haod said indifferently, "We have traced your wife's bank account and found some places. If she is safe, we will find her soon." "Is that so? That's good." Gu Feng casually replied, "What else is there?" Ma Haod didn't want to waste his saliva on such a person. He pushed him away and walked into the house. "Wait, I didn't say you could come in." Gu Feng frowned. Unexpectedly, the young police officer who came with him reached out and gently pressed on his chest. "This is a search warrant. There's nothing wrong with your heart rejecting it, but your body better behave. Okay? You?" Gu Feng stopped helplessly, but he was angry because of this. He said discontentedly, "Don't dirty my place. Haven't you seen it before? What else is there to see?" Ma Haod ignored him. He walked into Gu Jiajia's room and began to check it carefully. But the room was not big, and there seemed to be no useful information. Ma Haod just read Gu Jiajia's books out of boredom. Gu Feng leaned against the door of the room and looked impatiently. Ma Haod put down the book and asked, "Has this room been left untouched?" Gu Feng said, "No, my wife hasn't. Since then, she hasn't touched anything in this room." Ma Haod nodded. He was about to leave helplessly, but at this moment, he seemed to step on something. Ma Haod squatted down directly. The carpet in the room was right next to the window. It was just a small bump, but it could make his feet react. Of course, if he didn't pay attention to it, he wouldn't notice it at once. Ma Haod lifted the carpet in confusion and found what was hidden under the carpet, a very small white pill. It seemed to have fallen to the ground by accident and then rolled under the carpet. Even the part of the pill had been broken. It might have been accidentally stepped on when the policeman came up to check it. Ma Haod picked up the broken pill and frowned. He suddenly remembered the strange thing that old Qin of the forensic department mentioned before. "What did you find?" Gu Feng and other policemen came over curiously. Ma Haod opened his palm and asked, "Does your son need to take medicine? How was his physical condition?" Gu Feng looked at it and didn't care. "I don't know if he is sick or in pain. Such a big kid. Doesn't he know how to take care of himself when he is sick?" "When was your son's last physical examination?" Ma Haod rolled his eyes and asked. Gu Feng said impatiently, "How do I know? Isn't he your son?" "Make it clear he is not my biological son." Gu Feng snorted. Ma Haod suddenly stood up. His oppressive aura made Gu Feng take a step back. He said in a panic, What do you want to do?" "Nothing. I want to have a midnight snack." "Do you want me to stay here for a midnight snack?" Ma Haod stared at him. "No. Go ahead." "Hello. Old Sheen, are you still in the department? Can you help me identify something?" "Don't go. I'm coming." After making a phone call, Ma Haod looked at the young policeman beside him. "What are you waiting for? Drive." "Ma Haod, didn't you say you were going for a midnight snack?" "Drive. Do you want me to check in?" Chapter 355. Incheon Building. Although it was called a building, it was more appropriate to describe it as a shopping mall. From a first floor to the fifth floor, there were all kinds of shops. Food, clothes, accessories, and so on. Of course, this was a very ordinary place, which attracted young people. But it didn't mean that the business here was very important. There were too many shops of the same type, and the shop owners might not be able to do one business in a day. Therefore, when customers walked in, the bosses who operated independently would definitely be very happy to slaughter. Well, entertain them. Sir, miss, come in and take a look. My accessories here are all the latest styles. Are the silverware suitable? They are all 925 pure silver. Or crystal is also fine. Powder crystal. Powder crystal can bring good luck. Buy one for your girlfriend. Look at her empty hands. Such a beautiful girlfriend. It was as if his mouth was hit by a machine gun, which made the club owner, who was also a salesman, feel ashamed. That's right, the young man and woman here were the club owner and the maid duo. Madam, have you seen such a necklace? Yui took out her phone, showing a picture. A black crystal pendant necklace. This looks familiar. The saleswoman was stunned, but it's very common. Well, are you looking for the same one? Why don't you take a look at these? They look similar. If you like, our shop is having a promotion now. We will give it to you as soon as you reach 100. The saleswoman suddenly stopped talking because Miss Maid reached out and tapped her on the forehead. On the other side, Boss Luo was looking at the shop's accessories, but at the same time, he was also listening to the maid's question. Think about it. Can you remember this necklace? 3 months ago. It was a means to make the boss of the shop fall into a deep subconscious. In short, it was a kind of hypnosis to make people recall those trivial memories. 3 months ago, the saleswoman looked at her shop blankly, and after a while, she said, I remember. 3 months ago, a salesman came here to sell his products, and he gave me a batch of goods, saying that they were the best crystals. I bought some because they were cheap, but it's not easy to sell. I think a woman bought it. Do you still remember what the salesman looked like? Relax, relax. You can remember. Relax. At the same time, the servant girl took out a pencil and a piece of white paper and handed them to the landlady. Her finger continued to tap the landlady's forehead. The lady boss seemed to be unconsciously drawing something on the white paper with the pencil in her hand. It was a pretty portrait of a person. After a while, Master, I don't think she knows much. Miss Maid brought the piece of paper with a face drawn on it to Luochio. His gaze shifted from the display case to the painting on the white paper. After taking a look, he was surprised to see that the painting was so lifelike. However, Luochio had no impression of the man in the portrait. He wore a pair of glasses and had a mole beside his left eye. It could be considered a special item. Other than that, he was just an ordinary guy. Auntie, have you sold all the things you bought? It seems that only the one in Zhao Ru's hand was sold. At this moment, Yi took out a box from under the counter and opened it. The rest are here. According to the boss's wife, it's hard to sell, so she put it at the bottom of the counter as a loss. Luochio took out another necklace and rubbed it. It's not the same thing. Maybe it's just the necklace. Luochio smiled and closed the box. Now it seems that the black diamond of the Liu family and the crystal necklace of Zhao Ru are deliberately leaked by someone. You said that they all contain the same energy, similar to our Great Hall, something that can tempt the heart. Interesting. Yi said indifferently, it's just a low-level means to magnify people's evil thoughts. It can't be compared with the lobby. Luochio smiled and said nothing. Master, can I check if the person in the portrait is in this city? No need. Luochio shook his head. If it's fate, we'll meet. Miss Maid knew that as the boss of the club, his hunch was always very accurate, so she didn't continue to ask. Luochio seemed to have found something at this moment. He smiled softly and opened a cabinet in the jewelry store. He took out a hand-woven rope chain with 3 amber opals. He untied the knot and lifted Yu Ye's left wrist, bringing it up. Let's go back. Boss Luo left the shop with his hands clasped behind his back. Of course, he paid for it. In the police station. I found it. According to the composition of the medicine, it should be an anti-cancer drug called sidabinide. Anti-cancer drug. Mahoud frowned. If old Sheen said it was an anti-cancer drug, then it must be an anti-cancer drug. So he pondered for a while and said, "Old Sheen, guess where I found this pill?" Not interested. Mahoud blinked embarrassedly and said, "I found it in Gu Jiajia's room." It fell to the ground and probably accidentally rolled into the carpet. It was ignored from the start. Old Sheen suddenly stood up and walked out without saying a word. Mahoud was stunned when he saw this. "Huh? Where are you going?" "I want to check Gu Jiajia's body again." On the street, Shen Meihuan looked back and sped up her pace. She didn't relax until she returned to the rented house and closed the door. She looked at the small hole on the door and felt relieved when she didn't see anyone outside. Am I too nervous? She couldn't help asking herself. Taking a deep breath, Shen Meihuan put down the food she bought and walked into the room with some hot water. Although her son would take some action in the beginning, it was only a simple action. It was impossible for him to take care of himself. "Stand up. Mom will wipe your body." Shen Meihuan took off her son's shirt and began to wipe his back. She had wiped her son's back several times. Every time she saw the scars on his body, she couldn't help but cry. That man was simply a demon. How could he beat his son like this? "Why didn't you tell me?" Shen Meihuan asked slowly, although she couldn't get the answer. "But it doesn't matter. We will leave here soon." She pressed her son's shoulder and said softly, "We will start a new life, just like before when we left your bastard father. You're the only one I have left. This time I will." She gently stroked her son's head, but suddenly her face changed. Those that were wrapped around her fingers were the heads that had easily fallen off her son's scalp. A handful of them. How could this be? How could this be? How could this be? She frantically tried to cover it up, but she grabbed even more in a flurry. She couldn't stop it from falling off at all. Chapter 356. A voice came to her mind. Even if he is resurrected, he may not be the son you know. But you have to know that your son is full of corpse smell, which is not a good thing for you. Your body will be damaged after a long time. In front of the mirror, Shen Meihuan washed her face again and again. The water on the basin overflowed slowly, but she looked at herself in the mirror and gradually became absent-minded. She couldn't remember the last time she looked at herself in the mirror. Was the person in the mirror with a pale face who seemed to have aged for years? His lips were pale due to the lack of blood, his eyes were lifeless, and his complexion was dark yellow. He looked just like a patient. "No, I'm just too tired." "Yes, I'm just too tired." She took a deep breath and turned the faucet tight. Then, she quickly poured the water from the basin onto her face again and again. When she left the bathroom, she said to herself, "I'm not tired." Soon, it was time to depart, time to leave this place, time to start anew. How could he be tired? How could she let herself be tired? It was impossible, but the decay seemed to be getting more and more serious. "It's all right, son. You're just sick. Don't worry, Mom is here." He could still move. He could open his eyes. His eyes seemed to say something. He was alive. Alive. Shen Meihuan gently held his face and said softly, "It's all right. Mom is going to buy some foundation. It's all right. You'll be fine when you recover. Before that, you'll be fine." "Yes, it's all right. He'll be fine." After she left the room, he suddenly stood up. His movements were very slow as he walked past the bathroom door. He turned his head and looked at his reflection in the corner of the mirror that was peeking out. He just stood there. "Ma-Yi, why don't you ask your subordinates to find Shen Meihuan? You don't have to bother with this kind of thing, right?" On the street, a young policeman looked at Ma Haud after asking a passerby. Ma Yu leaned against the car door while smoking. He stretched his neck and said, "It's mainly because I can't figure out some things." Xiaoru said that Gu Jiajia's death had nothing to do with her. But why was he the fifth suicide? I don't get it. Of course, there was also the pill found in Gu Jiajia's room and what old Qin said. These were all things that Ma Haud couldn't understand. He heaved a sigh and said, "Anyway, Zhao Ru is in a deadlock, so I decided to come out for some fresh air. That Wang Yuechuan is sitting in the meeting room opposite the Labor Department's office. I feel uncomfortable just looking at him. So this is the reason why you came out to look for him. Why? Do you have a problem with that?" Ma Hao glared at him. "No. I'll go ask the owner of the store." The young man hurriedly ran across the road and walked into the store. According to the consumption records provided by the bank, they found that Shun Mei Huan's last consumption was around here yesterday. Therefore, the possibility of her being in this area was very high. Ma Hao looked up at the environment of this place. In this kind of urban village, there were too many apartments for rent and the roads were quite complicated. It was not easy to find someone. But at this moment, the young police officer ran back quickly, beaming with joy. Hoar's private investigator, we found something. Tell me about it. I showed the shop owner the photo. According to him, he should have seen this woman before. The young police officer paused and said, he said that he had seen this woman twice. Both times, she went out at night and came back after shopping outside. The shop owner has lived in this village for decades, so he is very sensitive to strangers. Do you know where she lives? The shop owner just pointed to this direction, but I don't know the details. But it seems that she went out at about the same time these days. Let's split up and ask them one by one. It'll be faster that way. Maybe we can meet her directly. Ma Hao suddenly became excited. Madam, do you want anything else? Do you want to try this lipstick? It's the latest style with a nice color. No, I'll pay the bill. Shun Mei Huan said simply. Then she swiped her card, took a small bag of cosmetics, and hurriedly left the cosmetics shop. The shop assistant glanced at her and felt that she was very nervous, as if she was hiding from someone. But it was none of her business. Anyway, it was someone else's business. After going out, Shun Mei Huan looked at the time, thinking that there were only some vegetables and meat left in the supermarket at this time. She decided to pack a takeout and eat casually today. With that thought in mind, she stopped at a fast food restaurant on her way back. The dishes were placed in front of the restaurant. Behind a glass, the boss was chopping a drumstick. He glanced at it and said, "What would you like to order?" 2 meat dishes and 12 renminbi per dish. Soup is on the house. It was not standard Mandarin. The shop owner seemed to be a Cantonese. There was nothing her son liked to eat. Shun Mei Huan couldn't help hesitating. But at this time, her face was a little strange. The glass in front of her was at night. In the reflection of the glass in front of her, did someone pass by behind her? Shun Mei Huan turned around at once. Across the narrow alley in the urban village, several alleys were dark, and the old streetlights were still flickering. Shun Mei Huan subconsciously grasped her bag, lowered her head, and said, "I don't want it." She left quickly, but she could vaguely hear the shop owner's low voice. Luck. She didn't know what this sentence meant and didn't intend to think about it. She just wanted to go back to the place where she lived as soon as possible. After turning into an alley, she directly ran. But obviously, she was not the only one running on the street. At this time, the other figure also began to walk quickly, so much so that he began to run. Wearing a hat and a mask, he was obviously looking for something. His eyes kept moving in the alley, but he had to choose to leave after finding nothing. It seemed that he was really discovered. Could it go on like this? He secretly asked himself. A trace of hesitation flashed through his eyes. Just as he was thinking about what he should do, he suddenly heard such a voice. It was just behind him. "Have I seen you before?" He suddenly turned around and saw a middle-aged man with a mustache and a big belly standing behind him. "Ma Hao, have I seen you somewhere before?" Ma Hao stepped forward. He didn't feel suspicious as a police officer, although this guy's hat and mask were quite suspicious. But after he and his men separated to look for people, they undoubtedly found Shun Mei Huan's trace. Ma Ili didn't intend to go up and call for the missing madam immediately. Intuition told him that the lady seemed to be nervous, as if she was hiding from something. He followed her all the way until Shun Mei Huan stopped at the snack shop. He found this suspicious man. He felt that he seemed to have seen this guy somewhere before, but he couldn't remember where at the moment. "No, I haven't seen him before." After hearing this, the guy lowered his head and intended to leave Ma Hao. "Wait." He turned around and put his hand on the guy's shoulder. He was quite a thin guy, which was too weak for an adult's point of view. Unexpectedly, the moment Ma Hao put his arm on the man's shoulder, he suddenly shook it off, turned over, and pushed Ma Hao, and ran away quickly. "Shit, you want to get away from me?" "No way." He didn't say anything. He took off his shoes and threw them out. Ma Hao, who was good at sniper rifles and Coke cans, was also good at throwing shoes. His shoes directly hit the guy's heel, making him lose his balance and fall to the ground after a few steps. He quickly walked to the man's side. He grabbed the man's arm with one hand and lifted him up from the ground. Don't move. Police. I suspect you are suspicious. Tell me your name and ID card. He pressed the guy against the wall and asked sternly. However, this guy seemed to be dead and refused to speak. He just kept struggling and had a terrified look on his face. Mahoud turned the man around, but at the same time, he pressed him down hard and reached out to grab the mask on this suspicious guy's face. Don't! The suspicious guy let out a cry of alarm, but he was unable to prevent the mask from being removed from his face. Let me see who you are. You are. Mahoud's expression suddenly froze. He suddenly fell into a state of slow thinking. He couldn't react in time, but he suddenly felt a sharp pain coming from his toe. The foot that was not wearing shoes was ruthlessly stepped on. His 10 fingers were in pain, so it was probably the same for his toe. In the chaos, he was pushed to the ground by the guy. Stop! Don't run! Don't run, it hurts! Maili hurriedly got up, but the pain in his feet made him kick and kick. He could only watch as this guy escaped into another small alley in front of him. Why are you sitting here? What happened to your foot? The young policeman asked along the way. At this time, he finally saw Mahoud sitting on the stairs of shop on the street. He couldn't help but walk over in surprise. Mahoud lowered his head, rubbing his foot while thinking about something. Anyway, his eyebrows were tightly knitted. Mahoud raised his head blankly and said, Do you think the dead can be resurrected? What? Do you know who I just saw? Who? Chapter 357. She couldn't stay here any longer. Even if she was too sensitive, Shun Mei Huan felt that she couldn't stay here any longer. She decided to find a hotel and stay there. Anyway, it was time to leave. She took a deep breath, combed her hair casually, and was about to open the door. Jia, I'm back, she tried to sound calm, but the moment she inserted the key into the lock, the door moved gently. It was not locked. Shun Mei Huan was shocked and pushed the door in, calling her son's name. She walked into the living room. No one was there. She walked into the room. No one was there. She walked into the bathroom and the kitchen. No one was there. No one was there. Shun Mei Huan suddenly panicked, but she soon calmed down, because her son had walked out by himself once before. Jia. Although her son couldn't speak at that time, he looked like an ordinary person. But this time, she couldn't imagine what would happen if someone saw Gu Jiajia's appearance. Shun Mei Huan was so confused that she couldn't calm herself down. As soon as she came back, she rushed out of the street without even locking the door. She didn't care about these things anymore. But it was late. It was late. She was alone in the street. Jiajia, where are you, Jiajia? She shouted as she walked. At night, other than the brightly lit snack stalls, the rest of the village was quite quiet. Her voice could be heard loud and clear. But Shun Mei Huan had to stop and turn around. She was going to leave the alley she was in. However, someone had obviously seen her and hurried over. Mrs. Gu, is that you? Mrs. Gu, don't go. The man ran to Shun Mei Huan at once and stopped her. Mrs. Gu, I finally found you. Shun Mei Huan turned her face away in a panic. I don't know you, go away. But she heard another man's voice. It was Ma Ili's voice. Ma Ili limped to her. Mrs. Gu, you don't know this man, but you should know me, right? We have been looking for you for some time. Your husband filed a police report saying that you were missing. Don't mention that guy. Shun Mei Huan suddenly raised her head. I won't mention it. Mahoud shook his head and walked to Shun Mei Huan. He frowned and said, Let's talk about your son. What do you think? There's nothing to talk about. Now that you've found him, you can go back. Shun Mei Huan turned around and left. I'm an adult, and I know what I'm doing. Gu Feng treated me so badly. Can't I leave him? There were no threats or kidnappings. I left on my own accord. Stop following me. Seeing Shun Mei Huan take a few steps forward, Mahoud said to his back, I just saw your son. What? Shun Mei Huan suddenly turned around. She looked nervous and hesitated. You really saw him? When Mahoud heard this, he heaved a sigh of relief. He nodded and said seriously, Mrs. Gu, if I'm not wrong, Do you have another son? He and Gu Jiajia should be twins, right? You and Gu Feng remarried, so your son should be the one you gave birth to with your previous husband, right? Otherwise, you can't find two people who are almost the same in the world. What did you say? Shen Mei Huan was extremely shocked. My other son? What? Am I wrong? Ma Hao looked at Shen Mei Huan's face. She seemed to know nothing about it. But as a mother, it was impossible that she didn't know the twins. But Shen Mei Huan's reaction was too strange. Then what was the identity of the Gu Jiajia he saw? Ma Hao had goosebumps all over his body. No. Shen Mei Huan shook her head. I do have another son, but what? But he should have died long ago. Shen Mei Huan thought silently. Shen Mei Huan hesitated. She was eager to know the whereabouts of her resurrected son from the policeman. It was so dark that the policeman might not have noticed the abnormality of Gu Jiajia. He didn't know that Gu Jiajia was actually a resurrected dead person, so she made such a guess. Of course, this guess was true. I divorced my previous husband a long time ago, Su Qianzi said. Shen Mei Huan seemed to be reluctant to mention the past. She simply said, after the divorce, I left with my son, and the other one stayed with his father. Soon after the divorce, I applied to the court for the custody of the other child, but I couldn't find them at that time. I haven't heard from them for so many years. Shen Mei Huan shook her head. You said you saw Gu Jiajia. How could it be? My son died that day. By the way, I have another son. Shen Mei Huan suddenly grasped Ma Hao's hands excitedly. Sir, tell me, did you really see him? Where is he? Mrs. Gu, please calm down. Ma Hao frowned. But it turns out that you really have another child, which proves that I was right. But unfortunately, I was shocked when I saw him. I didn't pay attention to him and let him slip away. Well, did you see my feet? That's why he stepped on it. Slip away. Shen Mei Huan loosened her hands with disappointment. Ma Hao said, Mrs. Gu, although I don't know the details of your other child, I found that he seemed to be following you. You must have felt it these days, right? In fact, I saw your reaction when I was in the snack bar. And your other son was also found at that time. What? The one following me is... Shen Mei Huan suddenly lowered her head. She couldn't believe it. Her mind was in a mess. Her resurrected son, the son mentioned by Officer Ma, the son she didn't take away after she divorced her husband, but had died. She opened her mouth and took several breaths. She seemed to want to say something, but she didn't know what to say. She seemed to have difficulty breathing. She stretched out her hand and pressed her forehead. I'm a bit confused, She fell to the ground. Mrs. Gu. Ma Hao. She seems to have fainted. Her face is so pale. In the hospital, he took off his hat and put it into his trouser pocket before walking in. Of course, he was also carrying the food that he had packed from outside. When he passed by the nurse's station, the nurse on duty obviously saw him. She immediately stood up and said angrily, Lu Jiahui, why did you run out again? Do you know your condition? Lu Jiahui was stunned. I was hungry, so I went out to buy some food. Do you know that your grandma just fainted? The nurse sighed and said seriously. Lu Jiahui hurried forward and said in horror, What happened to her? She's fine now. The nurse shook her head and said, She suddenly had a fever and fainted. However, she's not young anymore. After this surgery, her body has become very weak. You have to be careful. We called you, but your phone was turned off. My phone ran out of battery. Lu Jiahui shook his head. I'm sorry, there won't be a next time. All right, go check on her. The nurse said softly, Your grandma just fell asleep. However, she kept calling out your name. You are her only family member left. You have to take good care of her. Do you understand? Although, remember, you must be strong. Do you understand? Lu Jiahui nodded and said nothing. He turned around and left. The nurse sighed and sat down. She said to the colleague on duty beside her, This child is quite pitiful. He is so young, but he has to bear so many responsibilities. The colleague said coolly, Every day, we see people with bad lives in the hospital. If all of them are pitiful, who will work? He reached out with both hands. His hands kept fiddling with the padlock in front of the glass door. It seemed that he wanted to open the lock, but he couldn't find a way. He could only keep shaking it, like a body without a soul. Seeing that he couldn't open the lock, he walked toward the glass door. He touched it, stopped, walked again, touched it again, stopped, and walked again. In this way, he gently touched the glass door, then bounced away, then continued. Do you want to go in? A voice appeared behind him. However, he still did this simple and repetitive action as if he didn't hear it. What are you thinking? Then go in. He waved his hand. The person standing behind him wasn't anyone else, but the boss of the club. With a wave of his hand, the padlock on the glass door automatically fell off, and the glass door opened automatically. As for the door inside, it automatically rolled up. This time, he finally didn't touch anything and easily walked into this place. He walked into this amusement center. Luaccio followed him and walked in. Luaccio then snapped his fingers. All the lights that were turned off suddenly turned on, and those machines that had stopped naturally started to operate again. There was a sound. Because of the light, his appearance became clear. His hair fell off, and his skin appeared dry and gray. The cockroaches and flies walking in this old amusement center seemed to smell the fragrance and began to come toward him. But he didn't care. Because of the sound, he seemed to have found his target. Chapter 358. Most of the houses in the town were two-story houses. This place was originally just a tile. In fact, it was a simple rural area. However, at some point in time, the young people here began to work outside and send money back. Slowly, the town became what it was today. It was a sunny summer in 2003. In a two-story house in the town, two men and a woman were looking at each other. The owner of the house clearly did not intend to invite the couple in. There was even a disgusted expression on his face. Shen Meihuan, why did you come back? Is this your new lover? Why? Do you want to taunt me by bringing him back? How can you talk like that? Gu Feng frowned with anger in his eyes. However, the wife beside him had officially registered their marriage 3 months ago. Now, they were legally married. Shen Meihuan reached out and pulled his sleeve. It had been a whole year since she left the man in front of her. Her appearance was already different. She said indifferently, I've called you a few times. Last time, your mother picked up the phone. I made it very clear. So, I came back to take Jiahui here. What did you say? Say that again. When a man heard this, he shouted even louder. You bitch! You took away my son last time, and now you want to take Jiahui away? No way. Don't even think about it. Shen Meihuan took a deep breath and said indifferently, I've inquired about it. I heard that you contracted tuberculosis when you were working in a factory outside. The factory didn't want you, and you didn't get any compensation. In your current environment, can you give Jiahui a good environment to grow up in? With that, Gu Feng, who was beside him, had a reluctant expression on his face, but he still took out a check from his suit pocket. Take this money to treat the illness, and leave Meihuan's child to us. You should give up custody of him. The man glared at him and suddenly grabbed the check from Gu Feng, tearing it up. Get out. Don't let me see you again. Get out. Gu Feng's face changed slightly. Shen Meihuan took a deep breath and said, Lu Cheng, I just want to talk to you. You need the money to treat your illness, and you really don't have the ability to take care of Hui. Don't be stubborn. Then, I'll take him away. If there's time, I can let you two meet. I just want to resolve this matter properly. Don't force me to resort to the law. You know, your situation is not optimistic at all. Even if I die, I will not let you take Jiahui away. He's my son. Lu Cheng roared. Jiahui, Jiahui, are you home? Mama's back. Jiahui, Mama's back. Come out and meet me. Jiahui. Shen Meihuan was so familiar with the house that she walked in and shouted loudly. Unexpectedly, this directly pushed Lu Cheng's anger to the peak. He grabbed Shen Meihuan's hand in an instant and pulled her out. You're not a member of this family. I didn't let you in, scram. Lu Cheng, no matter what, let me gradually shine. He is also my child. You have no right to stop me from seeing him. Lu Cheng, let go of me. Let go. See you. You can meet him when you're dead. Lu Cheng roared at this time. Let's see if he will recognize you as his mother in hell. What did you say? Shen Meihuan's face suddenly changed. He is dead. Lu Cheng shook off Shen Meihuan's hand and snorted. How could it be this is his tomb? If you don't believe it, dig it up and see. Let's see if you dare to dig up your son's tomb. On the nearby hill, Lu Cheng was drinking the sorghum wine he bought on the way, looking embarrassed and haggard. Jiahui, Shen Meihuan's face was pale. She knelt in front of the tomb and touched the name on the tombstone with trembling fingers. She did not speak, but just touched the name again and again. When did it happen? Why did a good child die just like that? Gu Feng was very calm. He frowned and grabbed Lu Cheng's collar, asking loudly, "Isn't it all because of this heartless mother who left?" Lu Cheng snorted, "Shen Meihuan, your son sits in front of the door every day waiting for you to come back. Have you ever come back to see him? You haven't. The child was so sad that he ran away from home to find you. On a rainy day, then he fell into the pond and drowned. You evil woman! How dare you come back? Mind your words." Gu Feng retorted. Seeing that they were about to fight, Shen Meihuan suddenly threw Lu Cheng to the ground and bit him. "You lied to me. My son is not dead. You lied to me. You lied to me. I don't believe it. You lied to me. You lied to me. Give the child back 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 to me." Suddenly, a scream rang out in the ward. The mournful and indignant voice woke the two people in the ward up from their sleep at the same time. Ma Hao looked at Shen Meihuan, who finally woke up. Seeing the sweat on her forehead, he quickly came to her and said, Mrs. Gu, calm down. You're just dreaming. Calm down, calm down." Where am I?" Shen Meihuan looked around absent-mindedly. "You suddenly fainted, so we sent you to the hospital." Ma Hao said, "The doctor said that you're in poor health with severe anemia and need to rest." My son. Shen Meihuan nervously grasped Ma Hao's clothes. My son. Relax. Ma Hao hurriedly said, "When you fainted, I asked someone to check the household register. We know where he is. He is here, also in the hospital, but he is in the number 3 hospital." He is here?" Shen Meihuan was stunned. Ma Hao nodded. "Well, we don't know where Lu Jiahui grew up. However, we did find out that Lu Cheng died of illness 6 years ago. Lu Jiahui and his grandmother depended on each other." "Your mother-in-law?" "No, Lu Cheng's mother is called Xiaomei, right?" She is Xiaomei. "That's it," Ma Hao said. "According to the records, Xiaomei came to the No. 3 hospital for a gastrectomy some time ago. Her mother is still recuperating there, and her family name is Lu Jiahui. So, the one who has been following you recently should be your other son, Lu Jiahui." "Jiahui," Shen Meihuan was stunned. She slowly lowered her head and murmured Jiahui. She didn't know what to say for a while. How could... Jiajia was missing, but Lu Jiahui was still alive. She put her hands on her head and hugged it tightly. After a long time, she suddenly raised her head. "Officer Ma, can you take me to see him? There are some things that I would like to clarify." "Okay." Ma Hao nodded. "I will talk to the doctor. It should be okay." She was taken away from the hospital and went to another hospital. There was no accident on the way. The young police officer and Ma Hao in the driver's seat and the passenger's seat occasionally looked at Shen Meihuan in the rearview mirror. She leaned her head against the window and silently looked at the shadows on the street. They sighed silently. They thought that for this woman, the death of the son she had raised all her life might be a source of despair. But if the other child who had left her when he was young could return to her, hopefully, she could get rid of the grief. After a while, they arrived at the number 3 hospital where Xiaomei lived. "Officer, this is the room." The nurse took them to the door of the ward. Shen Meihuan put her hand on the door. She hesitated for a long time before she took a deep breath, pushed the door open, and walked in first. At this time, Ma Hao felt that he shouldn't go in. In fact, he could almost hear everything outside the door. He waved his hand and asked the young police officer to stay outside the door. The two leaned against the wall and quietly listened to the movement inside the room. When Shen Meihuan saw Xiaomei's appearance, she was obviously at a loss. The old man lying on the bed was obviously much older than what she remembered. Maybe it was because of the operation. Her hair was gray and sparse, her eyes were sunken, and her skin was dark and rough. The quilt covered Xiaomei's body. She looked out of the window silently, as if she was waiting for someone to come back. Shen Meihuan took 2 steps forward but she couldn't think of how to call the old woman. It seemed inappropriate to call her. Suddenly, the old woman turned her face. She might have heard the movement. When the two of them looked at each other, Shun Mei Huan subconsciously said, "Mom." However, she quickly realized what she had just said and immediately stopped. "Who are you?" He Xiaomei was a little confused. The old woman smiled kindly and shook her head. "My eyes are not very good. Come here and let me see clearly." "It's me." Shen Mei Huan took a deep breath, walked to the bed, and sat down. "I'm Mei Huan. Do you remember me?" The old woman suddenly pulled her hand out of the quilt. She moved her lips as if she wanted to say something, but she couldn't say anything. After a long time, He Xiaomei put down her hand, but soon she excitedly reached out and grasped Shen Mei Huan's hand. "Is it really you? Mei Huan, is it really you?" She even reached out her hands, gently held Shun Mei Huan's face, and carefully touched it. I didn't expect to see you one day." Shen Mei Huan took a deep breath. "I heard that you had an operation in this hospital." As she spoke, she grabbed the old man's hand tightly. Can you tell me who sent you here?" "I knew that this matter couldn't be hidden forever." He Xiaomei shook her head. Suddenly, she propped herself up and walked down the stairs. Seeing that He Xiaomei was about to kneel on the ground, Shen Mei Huan suddenly panicked. "Mom, what are you doing?" "I'm sorry, Mei Huan, I'm sorry. We lied to you." The old woman didn't want to get up, so she knelt on the ground and cried bitterly. "That year, you called me and said you wanted to take Jiahui away. I panicked and told you Lu Cheng. Alas, we didn't mean it, but Lu Cheng made a fake grave and lied to you. Lu Cheng knew that you would only give up when you knew that Jiahui was dead, so. Shen Mei Huan suddenly sat on the ground and shook her head slightly. Her eyes seemed to have lost focus. Jiahui is not dead. Jiahui. Shen Mei Huan suddenly screamed at He Xiaomei, and the pain buried in her heart for more than 10 years was released unreservedly. You, how can you do this to me? How can you do this to me? You lied to me. How can you do this to me?" She coughed dryly as if she wanted to vomit. She slowly pressed her hands on the ground and shed tears. "Do this to me." He Xiaomei could only hold her tightly with pain and guilt, and also sobbed. "I'm sorry, Mei Huan. I'm sorry." She was still screaming. She was afraid that she could only let herself breathe like this. "Listen, I'm going to smoke outside. Tell me later." The commotion in the room was still there, but Ma Ir suddenly patted the shoulder of the young police officer beside him and walked away. Although the young policeman had been handling cases for so many years, he still knew that Ma Ir's tear ducts were sometimes clear. He shook his head as well. Ma Ir was also a father, so he could probably feel the pain of losing his son. The room was silent for a long time, and then some voices began to come out. Shen Mei Huan said, "Jiahui, how has he been these years?" Shen Mei Huan looked at He Xiaomei with red eyes, choking with sobs. "That man, Lu Cheng, died a few years ago. Why didn't you come to me?" He Xiaomei sighed. "I didn't know how to sleep with you." "Jiahui, he didn't know you. When the child was young, Lu Cheng told him that you were dead. I didn't dare to tell Jiahui the truth, nor did I have the face to tell him. Then now, a few months ago, I was sick." He Xiaomei said sadly. "I felt that I was dying, so I told him the truth. I'm afraid that after I leave, he won't have a single family member left." The child was so pitiful. Lu Cheng's illness dragged on for several years. When he was sick, he had a bad temper and would beat the child. I couldn't protect these old bones of mine so many times. I wanted to take him away and look for you, but the sea of people is vast, and I don't know where to look for you. I secretly went to the place where you worked and asked, but the people there said that there was no news about you. The old woman didn't want her grandson to be taken away, so she agreed with Lu Cheng's son's plan. Shen Mei Huan could understand He Xiaomei. If she were in He Xiaomei's shoes, she would be no better. But understanding didn't make her feel relieved. That was another thing. Shen Mei Huan calmed down. Now that she knew that her other son was alive, it was probably the best news in a long time. How did you get the money for the operation?" Jiahui sold the house in his hometown and borrowed some money. He Xiaomei shook her head. I was old and didn't want to be a burden to him, but the child refused. He held me and said that if I didn't do the operation, he would die in front of me. What else could I say? She sighed and said, the doctor said that I'm too old. Even if I did the operation, it might not be successful. I thought that if I really died, I couldn't let this child be alone, so I told him the truth. Then she grabbed Shin Mei-hwan's arm. You're here. Did Jiawei find you? During this time, Jiawei went out whenever he had time. I know he must be looking for you. By the way, where is Jiajia? Is he all right? Can I see him? Shin Mei-hwan didn't know what to say to the old woman who she once respected but now resented. Could the old woman bear such a sad thing? He's fine. Shin Mei-hwan turned her face away. We send him abroad. She could only hide it temporarily, but she was also confused. She didn't know where Gu Jiajia was now. Really? I see. For He Xiaomei, this was probably the best news she heard during this time. At least another grandson she missed for more than 10 years was successful again. Ma Haud was a little irritable, smoking a cigarette. He paced back and forth outside the hospital building. Suddenly, he saw a guy in front of him. The food that the guy was carrying dropped to the ground. It was a bowl of hot porridge. But he turned around and ran away. Don't run. Ma Haud threw the cigarette, and chased after him. Lu Jiahui. Don't run. Don't run. He chased after him. Yin 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 yin. Chapter 359. The number 3 hospital. Gu Jiajia was waiting for his name to appear on the screen while talking on the phone. It was his mother, Shin Mei-hwan. Not yet. I'm still waiting in line. You don't have to come. It should be okay. Ahem. It's just a cold. Full body examination? No, it's too troublesome. Okay, I see. I'll ask the doctor later. Gu Jiajia looked around, but his mother didn't seem to hang up the phone. Dad? Nothing. I'm okay. Gu Jiajia didn't want to say more, but he suddenly said, will you come back tonight? You need to work overtime. Okay. No, you don't need to come back. I can take care of myself. As he spoke, Gu Jiajia's gaze once again swept around in boredom and suddenly stopped. He saw a person who was walking past with his head down, absent-minded. A person of the same age as him walked past him. A person who didn't notice him, but who knew what he was thinking. That person looked so haggard. That person looked almost exactly like him. He walked past. Mom, I'll hang up, it's my turn. Gu Jiajia hung up the phone and followed him quietly. Don't go, Lu Jiahui. Stop. One after the other, they were about to run out of the hospital's entrance. Ma Yili's foot was still injured, and he was sweating because of the pain. So he shouted, where are you going? Don't you care about your grandma? Sure enough, he slowed down and stopped. He turned around and frowned. What's wrong with her? Ma Yili walked over slowly. Your grandma is okay, but your mother has some matters to attend to. She's heartbroken right now, don't you know? I don't have a mother. He turned his face away. Ma Haud said, no matter what you think, your mother is not in good condition now. Her son, who is also your biological brother, died a long time ago. Don't you know about it? She has been following Shin Mei-hwan. You should know that, right? He nodded and said indifferently, that doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean that I have to see her. Ma Haud frowned. That was why it was really hard to deal with a child who grew up in a single-parent family. Ma Yili shook his head and said, I think your father's divorce had a great impact on you, but she's still your biological mother. There's no misunderstanding that can't be solved. Maybe it's a good thing for you to meet. Besides, if you don't have the heart to tolerate her, why do you keep following her? Seeing that the child in front of him was silent, Ma Haud sighed and said, that day when I was at the scene downstairs of your mother's house, I saw you, right? Did you find out where she lived earlier than that? That's why you've been loitering around here, right? Did you see how much pain your mother was in that day? Stop talking, he yelled at Ma Haud. No matter what you say, I won't see her, at least for the time being. I won't see her. You think about it first. Ma Haud shook his head. He knew that he couldn't push such an emotional child too hard. Anyway, your mother already knows that you're here. You can't take your grandmother away, right? She still needs to be treated in the hospital. Do you want to meet him or not? Think carefully. Help me tell her. He thought for a while. Let her go back first. Maybe I'll see her after I think about it, but not now. Jiahui, did he really say that? In the ward, Shen Mei Huan subconsciously grasped Ma Hao's arm and asked, "Why doesn't he want to see me?" "Calm down, okay?" Ma Hao sighed and said, "Maybe he's not mentally prepared. Maybe he needs some time to prepare. I think he still cares about you. Otherwise, why does he follow you all the time? Children at this age are still immature. You have to give him some time. You can't go against him. At least, as long as Xiaomei is here, he won't leave." Shen Meihuan suddenly let go of Ma Hao's arm. His words reminded her. Xiaomei was here. Lu Jiahui and Xiaomei depended on each other, so Lu Jiahui would not leave. As long as she waited here, she would be able to see Lu Jiahui. But she didn't know where Gu Jiajia was resurrected. She couldn't let Gu Jiajia be found. What she needed to do now was to find Gu Jiajia. Shen Meihuan glanced at Xiaomei, and the old woman responded with a complicated look. Could she see Shen Meihuan's face clearly as her eyes grew older? I'm leaving." Shen Meihuan turned her face away. "Have a good rest." In front of the hospital, Shen Meihuan turned around and looked at Gu Jiahui. "Mrs. Gu, let's send you back. You must be tired." Ma Hao could only say these words at this time. "No, thanks." Shen Meihuan shook her head. "I won't go back to that place, and I don't want to see that man. If you really want to help me, tell Gu Feng that I won't be with him anymore. Tell him that I'll find time to divorce him. That's all. Don't follow me. This is my phone number." Ma Hao nodded. There was not much space for him to intervene in this kind of family matter. He wrote down a phone number. "Call me if you need anything." "Thank you." Shen Meihuan walked out of the number 3 hospital alone. Ma Private's eyes had not aged. At this moment, with a glance, he could clearly see a figure hiding under the tree and watching silently. Ma Hao shook his head and sighed. Even an honest official can't solve a family matter. He looked at the sky and subconsciously touched his stomach. It turned out that from last night until now, it was almost noon. He had been running outside the whole time. His stomach was already rumbling with hunger. Damn it! He forgot to call the tigress at home to tell her that he was safe. F***CK. 46 missed calls. This is bad, this is bad. Who's here? Although her eyes weren't good, her hearing was more sensitive. Xiaomei looked at the door. "Is it Jiaowei?" "It's me." Xiaomei breathed a sigh of relief and held her grandson's hand. "Jiaowei, do you know that your mother just came?" "I know." He shook his head. "Grandma, don't mention it, okay? The most important thing now is to wait for you to recover. By the way, I'll get some hot water for you. The water in the kettle is cold." "It doesn't matter. You just came back. Have a seat first." But she didn't stop her grandson. Xiaomei looked at her grandson's back and sighed. Ever since Lu Cheng passed away, the two of them had been relying on each other for survival. This child seemed to be especially sensible. Maybe this was what parents wanted to see. But for Xiaomei, this child had to suffer so much. Even though he was precocious, she didn't know whether it was good or bad. The old man sighed. He was outside the ward. In fact, he didn't go far, but sat on a row of stools on the side of the corridor. He glanced at his side. It should be more than 2 months ago. That twin brother of his had spoken to him for a long, long time. "Gu Jiajia, do you really need to exist?" He murmured to himself. Suddenly, he hugged himself tightly in fear. He clearly saw his mother, the one who walked on the street that day, the one who could walk on her own, the one who was supposed to be dead. What the hell happened? He sat on a stool in the riverside park, quietly looking at the scenery here. As a half-human, half-corpse, and an existence whose body had even started to rot, it was actually very easy to attract attention, even if the passers-by would wonder if someone deliberately put on makeup to look like this to scare people when they walked out. Yes, even so, he should be able to be seen by people. But obviously, the passers-by who came here for a walk didn't notice his existence at all, as if he didn't exist. If he couldn't see, then the club boss who sat beside him and accompanied him naturally couldn't see him. From the amusement center, from the old street, from the snacks on the street, from the crowded shopping mall. And now here, Boss Luo accompanied him to walk through the road that his mother took him to walk through. The club boss didn't know tiredness. His body couldn't even get tired. His usual sleep was just to complete his daily routine. Your mother knows the existence of your brother, but they haven't met yet. He also said some things to the person sitting there silently. Even if he didn't have to personally go to the scene, as long as he wanted to know, he could find out. Your mother will still come to you. Luaccio said softly, "What are you thinking about?" No answer. He didn't say anything. His eyes were like a candle in the wind, flickering and about to go out at any time. But Boss Luo still didn't get any response. He faintly smiled as he patiently waited. While he was waiting, he suddenly shifted his line of sight. A mature and beautiful woman wearing a black dress was walking against the wind. Black water was walking towards him. This hundreds of years old snake monster followed the smell in the wind, the smell of a corpse. Although she knew clearly that the woman with the dead child wouldn't come to her. However, this Miss Serpent Demon obviously couldn't ignore it like she said. She was still reluctant to give up her compassion. Finally, she followed the smell of the corpse in the wind and came to Luaccio. Without much surprise, Blackwater stood in front of Luaccio, saying indifferently, "Sure enough, it's you." An ordinary person can't have that kind of ability to turn a dead person into a walking corpse. Luaccio smiled slightly, as if he wasn't too surprised about the appearance of this snake monster. He seemed to see a familiar person, saying softly, "Do you think he's really a walking corpse?" "Yes, he's already dead." Blackwater frowned. His soul has already disappeared. Now, he's just a corpse without consciousness. Don't you know that this kind of corpse can be easily invaded by the formed, resentful spirits and mutated? Once that happens, his mother is likely to be the first victim. Luaccio shook his head. "I don't know much about cultivation. But Miss Blackwater, in your opinion, what are the chances of resentful spirits being formed in this modern environment?" Blackwater frowned, not continuing to discuss this issue, but said seriously, "Why are you so cruel? We won't refuse the request of our customers." Luaccio shook his head. "Miss Blackwater, of course, you can also put forward your request to solve this problem." Blackwater sneered. "Do you think everyone is willing to make a deal with you? Wishful thinking. I'll try my best to get what I want. I don't need to rely on this kind of despicable deal." "I also hope so." Luaccio looked at the city on the other side of the river. He didn't continue. Blackwater didn't know what his so-called hope was. But for a moment, she couldn't see the reflection of the world in the eyes of the club boss. Blackwater retreated step by step. She wasn't afraid of anything. She simply knew that since the club's boss was sitting there, she had no other way to get close to the zombie except to propose a deal with him. "What exactly do you want to do? Are you letting him live like this? Is he not considered alive?" Luaccio said softly, "I just want to know what he's thinking. His soul has long since dispersed. How can there still be thoughts?" Blackwater shook her head. Unexpectedly, Boss Luo made a gesture of silence. "Shoo." He looked at Blackwater. Chapter 360. The city collapsed in an instant. Huge cracks appeared on the ground from the end of the earth. Wind and thunder were stirred up, and dark clouds were rolling. Flames spurted out from the cracks of the earth, and the world was dyed dark red. Longshu even heard the sorrowful cry of all things. Her eyes were filled with blood-red tears. The earth would eventually fall under her feet. She found that she had no way to retreat. She suddenly opened her mouth and let out a mournful dragon roar, shouting to the sky. But the darkness would eventually swallow her up. No, she let out an unwilling cry and opened her eyes in the darkness. Looking up, above the primitive forest, there was a dazzling galaxy that was rarely seen in this era. It was a rare night with good weather. Longshaw found that she was still leaning on the branch of the ancient tree. The dream had made her sweat on her forehead. This dream had been bothering her recently, since she got close to the door. Miss Long gently pinched the space between her eyebrows as she stretched out her hand. The wind brought the water vapor in the primitive forest at night to her fingers. It gradually condensed and finally condensed into water droplets. Long Shruot touched her lips with her fingers, moistening the dry lips. After drinking the dew, she jumped down from the tree and continued to walk into the depths of the forest. She was almost there. Maybe the place could give her an answer. The first movement of the soul? Soul seemed to be the name used by this weird shop. But as an Easter monster, Blackwater was more used to call it soul. Frowning, Blackwater looked at the walking corpse with doubts. His body had shown obvious signs of decay, and his eyes didn't give her a feeling of humanity. Where was the voice of the soul? Blackwater focused all her attention on her eyes. If there was anything different between this undead and those she had met before, it was that this undead was very quiet. Although the corpse aura was more and more intense, there was less evil spirit and hostility that a walking corpse should have. I couldn't hear a thing. Of course, Miss Blackwater didn't say it out loud, but her expression proved that she meant it. I remember now. Luaccio threw a glance at Blackwater. Remember when you opened your eyes for the first time. Remember when you're going to open your eyes. I believe you can hear it because you have the right to. Blackwater felt an inexplicable fear and took a step back subconsciously. The owner of this shop looked like an ordinary person, but he gave her a very complicated feeling from afar. She retreated step by step. Not long after, she turned around and left quickly. She suddenly wanted to return to the side of those little demons. Luaccio retracted his gaze and once again stared at the rotting body beside him with a hint of anticipation. However, he suddenly stood up and walked in a certain direction. He took the time to return home and take a bath. After drinking his wife's soup, the horse galloped back to the police station. Although the case of Gujaja was still unclear, Ma received a call saying that there was a new discovery about Zhao Ru's case. What did you find? Ma asked directly as soon as he sat down. Is there any news from the telecommunications company? No. However, we went to several of the victims' houses and, after a careful examination, we found these things in the first victim's room. They were hidden very well. A stack of letters. The young policeman handed the letter to Ma along with the sealed envelope and said, "There are some photos in the envelope. We have compared them and found that they're the same as those in Zhao Ru's notebook. What's more, it's enough to prove that she didn't just blackmail. As long as we can find Zhao Ru's handwriting and compare it with the handwriting on letters, we have reason to believe that she threatened the students to make them break down mentally. That's why she chose the most extreme solution. Not only were there different photos attached to the letters, but there were also letters with words that made people feel uncomfortable. She was really a good student who came out her own body. If your family, your classmates, and the people around you see the contents of these photos, what do you think will happen? Both of your parents are government employees, right? If your parents find out about your situation, why are you still in this world? I think it's about time for me to make these things public. Do you think it's time for me to post them on the streets? Why don't I send it to your school first? What's the point of you living? You will be reviled. Think about it. In this lifetime, everyone who knows you will know what you have done, and you will not be able to raise your head. Right? They may not talk about you on the surface, but they will definitely talk about you behind your back. You know what they're going to say about you? B asterisk TCH, 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 B asterisk TCH. How do you still have the face to live? You're really thick-skinned. In that case, I'll announce it. Mahoud had finished reading the stack of letters. He sighed and shook his head. Do you think these children can stand it if they receive such letters every day? But if these children didn't receive such letters, Zhao Ru wouldn't have been able to do anything. Find Zhao Ru's handwriting and compare it. Mahoud sighed, but it's still not enough. Next time when you interrogate her, scare her and see what she will say. Got it. The young policeman nodded. I don't think Zhao Ru would have thought that the deceased would hide these things. Usually, people don't want to keep these things, they will directly destroy them. This is called justice has a long arm. As long as you commit a crime, it's impossible to leave no traces behind. Mahoud suddenly frowned. He picked up the letters again and glanced at them quickly. Ma, what's wrong? No, this is not there either. Mahoud put down the letters. There is no mention of the word teacher here. Oh, there is no. Is there a problem? The young policeman was stunned. Isn't this the murderer's intention to divert our investigation? I know, Mahoud said, but did you forget that we started the investigation because of the deleted messages on Gu Jiajia's mobile phone? The teacher was mentioned in the messages. This, Ma, do you mean that Gu Jiajia's death is not the same case as the previous 4 victims? I don't know. Mahoud shook his head and stood up quickly. He picked up the mobile phone and keys on the table. I'll go to the number 3 hospital. You stay here and compare the handwriting as soon as possible. Got it. While driving, Mahoud kept thinking about what Gu Feng had said, what old Qin had said, the medicine found in Gu Jiajia's room, and so on. I just wanted to vent my anger. I really didn't want to cut him with a knife. I don't know why he suddenly resisted. It was a bit strange. The first time the minced meat was sent for examination, the results showed that it was cancer, but when the examination was done again, it was not. According to the composition of the medicine, it should be an anti-cancer drug called sidabinide. How could I know so much if he was not sick or in pain? Such a big kid. Didn't he know how to take care of himself when he was sick? I want to examine the body again. Thinking about it, they arrived at the number 3 hospital. When getting out of the car, Mahoud made a phone call and asked, "Hello, old Qin, you said you wanted to examine the body again. Did you find anything new? I'm still waiting for the result." "Oh, I see. Remember to inform me as soon as possible." Mahoud hung up the phone and walked to He Xiaomei's ward hurriedly. When passing by the nurse station, he was stopped by a nurse. "Sir, visiting hours have passed," the nurse said dutifully. When Mahoud was about to take out his ID card to show his identity, the nurse suddenly said, "Hey, sir, do you know Lu Jiawei? Are you his relative?" "What? What do you mean?" Mahoud was stunned. The nurse said, "I heard from my colleagues that someone came to see Lu Jiawei and He Xiaomei today. No one came to visit He Xiaomei, so I glanced at her curiously and saw you. There should be another man and woman. I wanted to see you, but I couldn't leave, so you left." Mahoud decided not to show his ID card. When he came up in the morning, he didn't show it. He just said that he was a friend and asked him to lead the way. "Miss, are you familiar with Lu Jiawei?" Mahoud suddenly asked. "Well, I saw him taking care of He Xiaomei when I was on duty." The nurse sighed. "The poor boy. Sir, if you are familiar with him, do something to help him. The doctor said that he might not live long." At the beginning, Shen Meihuan thought of the amusement center, which was the place her son came to last time. She looked for him all the way but didn't find him. The cashier also said that he had never seen him. Shen Meihuan knew that he must have never seen him, otherwise he wouldn't be so calm. But he was not here. Where'd he go this time? Shen Meihuan hurriedly left the amusement center and looked for the places where she had taken her son to. Unconsciously, she came to the hotel where she had stayed at the beginning. Thinking of the mysterious woman in black who also lived here, Shen Meihuan hesitated. She stepped back and wanted to leave. However, he did not expect to hear a voice coming from behind him at this moment. "Are you looking for me?" I'm just passing by." The moment she turned around, Shen Meihuan saw the mysterious woman who called herself Blackwater again. She didn't want to say anything more to this mysterious woman and intended to leave. Blackwater said, "Your son left by himself again, didn't he? Do you know anything?" Hearing Blackwater's words, Shen Meihuan stopped. Blackwater said indifferently, "Look at your face. Don't you feel it? The corpse gas has begun to erode your body. Did you see him?" Shen Meihuan grabbed Blackwater's arm and begged, "Please, I'm begging you. Please, if you see him, please tell me where he is." "Sorry, I don't know." Blackwater shook her head and pushed Shen Meihuan's hand away. She walked into the hotel with 2 big bags. "Please tell me." Blackwater heard a slight sound. It was the sound of Shen Meihuan kneeling on the ground and kowtowing to her. She didn't, nor did she dare to look back at the poor woman. Instead, she walked straight upstairs. Shen Meihuan absent-mindedly watched the glass door in front of the hotel swing freely and gradually close. Finally, she disappointedly held her legs and slowly stood up. She felt desperate again and planned to pray to that mysterious place. The longer the time passed, the greater the chance of her son being found. She didn't dare to think about the consequences, so she was willing to pay any price. But at this time, "Wait for me. I'll take you to him. Don't make too many deals." At this time, Shen Meihuan heard Blackwater's voice. "Thank you. Thank you. Thank you." Chapter 361. When he returned to the ward, he was surprised to see that someone was already sitting there talking to his grandmother, He Xiaomei. "Oh, you're back." The person who was sitting there was none other than Mai Ran. Mahoud turned around and smiled. I'm a little worried about Granny so I can't have a look. At this time, Xiaomei nodded and said kindly, Jiahui, this Mr. Ma is really a good person. He is very considerate. Is that so? He nodded. Grandma, take a rest first. I have something to discuss with him. As he spoke, he signaled for Ma Hao to come out. The two of them walked down the corridor away from the ward. He opened his mouth and said, Officer, didn't I tell you to let me be alone for a while? You don't bother me anymore. Ma Ili said, I'm just concerned about your health. Can't I? He stamped his feet and took a deep breath. Officer Ma, if you're really here to visit a patient, I welcome you. But if you're here because of my mom, that woman, please go back. Ma Hao narrowed his eyes and nodded. Well, I won't persuade you for the time being. Take good care to Grandma. Go back. He sighed, nodded, and turned to leave. Wait, you dropped something? Ma Hao suddenly shouted. He was stunned for a moment before he turned around. Ma Hao picked up a medicine bottle from the ground and stretched out his hand. You dropped your medicine. It's not mine. He just glanced at it casually and didn't pay attention to it. Maybe the nurse dropped it. It's really not yours? Ma Hao suddenly asked again. He seemed to be impatient. I'm fine. It's not painful. I don't need to take medicine. Okay? Ma Hao patted his forehead as if he suddenly realized something. I remember now. This is indeed not your medicine. I borrowed it from the doctor. But do you know who this medicine is for? How do I know so much? It's for Lu Jiahui. Ma Hao narrowed his eyes. It's for yourself. How can you forget it? It's really strange. Am I right? He seemed to remember something, and his face changed dramatically. He lowered his head. I don't know what you're talking about. You, don't come to me again. With that, he quickly turned around and left. Ma Hao didn't chase him this time, but shouted, Gu Jiaji, right? The one who jumped down from your house that day was Lu Jiahui, your brother, right? He suddenly turned around. It was hard to hide the shock and panic on his face. Ma Hao sighed in his heart when he saw the man stopped and didn't know what to do. He walked towards him slowly. Before you came back, I've asked the doctor here about your condition. I already know Lu Jiahui's condition. Now science and technology are very advanced. We only need to check the body lying in the coroner's office to know whether he was sick or not. And you, we only need to do a check to know whether you're sick or not. He was forced to retreat step by step. Ma Hao lowered his voice and said quickly, Why did Lu Jiahui die downstairs? Why are you here? What did the two of you do? Tell me, Lu Jiahui's death, is it because of you? No. Don't come here. Don't come here. Don't. If you don't tell me, then I'll ask your grandmother to see if she knows about this matter. Ma Hao still had a sullen face. He used some of the despicable adults to make this child yield. He didn't really want to ask Xiaomei anything. He just wanted to break this child's psychological defense. Although it was dirty, there was nothing he could do about it. Don't tell grandmother about this matter. I beg you don't. He immediately begged. If Grandma finds out what Big Brother did will be in vain. What did you do? Ma Hao frowned. Gu Jiaji took a deep breath and said with a bitter smile, I don't know. I don't know why I agreed at that time. It's too late to regret now. Gu Jiaji looked at Ma Hao and said with difficulty, 2 months ago, I came here to see a doctor and accidentally met someone who looked like me. He was Lu Jiahui. Your brother? Gu Jiaji nodded. I didn't expect that I would see my brother one day, because I heard from my mother that my brother was drowned when he was a child. Later, I recognized my brother, and then I knew what had happened that year. Sitting on the stool in the corridor, Gu Jiajia covered his face with his hands and said what had happened in the past 2 months bit by bit. Officer, you should know that my father often beat me in private, right? Yes, Gu Feng did admit it. Gu Jiajia smiled bitterly. I don't know why, but I didn't want to tell my mother about it. My father, Gu Feng, always beat me in private, but in my eyes, there was no difference between my mother and him. She also forced me to do it. He grabbed his collar and said painfully, Sometimes I even felt that I couldn't breathe. I wanted to leave this family. I wanted to leave these two people. I talked a lot with my brother after we separated. He knew my situation, so he suddenly told me that it was better to let him replace me. Anyway, we didn't look different. You mean, you and Lu Jiahui have already exchanged identities? Mahoud was surprised. Not often. Gu Jaja shook his head. Usually, only when my father came back that day, we would exchange identities. Mahoud nodded. No wonder Gu Fong said that you suddenly resisted when he beat you last time. It was actually your brother who resisted, right? Gu Jaja nodded and sighed deeply, resting his head on the wall behind the chair. I'm actually a very cowardly person. Although I didn't experience it personally, after I saw my brother's wound, I suddenly didn't want to go back to that family. At this time, my brother suddenly looked at me, and he said, what did he say? Gu Jajia stared blankly at the ceiling light and said softly, he said, it was better to let him replace me and die. You agreed? Gu Jajia closed his eyes and nodded. Until now, I don't know why I agreed. I've been thinking, maybe it's because I want to take revenge on my mother and father, or maybe I really want to leave and don't want to live this kind of life. Or maybe I can't bear to see my brother in such pain. You know, I've seen with my own eyes when my brother fell ill, lying next to me, that kind of painful appearance. Gu Jiaja shook his head. My brother didn't have many memories with me, and also didn't have many memories about my mother. Since he was young, it was my grandmother who took care of him. For my brother, my grandmother was the most important, the only family member. He didn't want to leave his grandmother behind and leave her alone in this world. So, if the one who died was Gu Jiajia and not Lu Jiahui, my grandmother would have someone to take care of her, and I would be free. Ma Haod wiped his face, not daring to believe that these two children would come up with this idea, and couldn't help but said in a deep voice, ridiculous. You can't bear to see your grandmother sad, but are you willing to see your mother sad? You've been following her all this time, right? Didn't you see how sad she was? I know, but what can I do? I didn't even know beforehand, but my brother jumped down that day. He died that day. We haven't even finished discussing this matter, and he had already made the decision by himself. He didn't even get my consent. I can't do anything about it. Gu Jeja also became more agitated. How many times have I wanted to go up and tell her, Mom, I'm Jiajia, but I can't do it. I can't do it. I don't dare to tell her. I lied to her like this. I shouldn't have promised my brother. He said, even if my grandmother recovered after the operation, she wouldn't have many days left. As long as I can accompany her during this period, a few years will be enough, and wait for her to live her last days peacefully. At that time, it doesn't matter if I appear in front of my mother as him, or if I tell the truth, it's all fine. But that day, when I saw a group of people gathering downstairs, when I saw my mother crying without making a sound, and when I saw the white cloth covering my brother, Gu Jiajia said with a trembling voice, I regret it. After Ma Haod heard this, he shook his head and fell silent. After handling cases for so many years, it wasn't that he hadn't experienced strange cases, but this kind of case. He didn't know what he should say at this time. It wasn't that he couldn't see the pain, fear, and regret of the child in front of him at this time. I didn't mean to hide it from you, Officer Ma. I know. Ma Haod nodded. He patted Gu Jiajia's shoulder and said with a bitter smile, but at least this matter isn't really bad. But do you think it's really good to continue like this? I don't know what I should do. Ma Haod shook his head, but suddenly asked, by the way, there's one more thing I don't understand. Why are there some strange messages on your mobile phone? Gu Jiajia said, you mean the thing about the teacher? He nodded. Gu Jiajia said, my brother said that it's better not to let others know about this matter. Since the cram school happened before, he thought that even if the police had any doubts, it would be better to mislead you. There's always a rumor about this strange teacher in the cram school, so we left such messages on our mobile phones. Ma Haod opened his mouth and was stunned for a moment. He didn't mean to question Gu Jiajia's words, but he was just curious about what the dead Lu Jiahui had experienced. Putting forward such an idea, such a request. Was it just because he hoped that after he died, there would be someone who could take care of Xiaomei for the last few years in his place, and then let Gu Jiajia, as his younger brother, be able to temporarily leave that family? By the way, Officer Ma, Gu Jiajia suddenly stopped himself. He wanted to say that he saw his brother and he still looked like a living person. However, just as the words reached his mouth, he swallowed them back. What? Is there anything I missed? No. I just want to say, can you not tell my mother about this matter? Ma Howd sighed and said, are you going to keep this matter a secret? To be honest, even if you pretend to be your brother to take care of your grandma has lived with your brother for more than 10 years. Can't she recognize and feel it? I don't know. I can only take one step at a time. Gu Jiajia shook his head. Well, I'll pretend that I don't know about this matter for the time being. But I hope you can confess to your mother. With a trace of melancholy, Ma Howd left the hospital. On the way, looking at the people in cars, Ma Yi suddenly thought that Lu Jiahui had suffered so much. Didn't he feel sad? The twins came to this world at almost the same time. Their life trajectories were completely different. On the way, he stopped. Ma Howd suddenly realized he has resentment in his heart, deep, very deep resentment. He revisited the old place again. Starting from the Riverside Park, he didn't look back. Walking back the way he came, he finally returned to the original place. This amusement center. It wasn't time to close yet, so the door of the amusement center was open. But the cashier at the front desk was looking down at the video on his mobile phone and didn't notice someone coming in. He didn't need to pay attention because he couldn't see anything. He couldn't hear the music from the machines in the amusement center because he was wearing earplugs. So he couldn't hear anything. One of the machines was turned on again. It was the machine that hit the tortoise. It's almost time. Silently watching him grab the hammer and hit it again and again, Luochio slowly closed his eyes. This undead indeed didn't have a soul. At the beginning, it didn't. But something was left in this body, which didn't disappear for a long time. And this thing was like a seed finally breaking out of the soil at this moment. A newborn soul that was born from the remnants of longing. For the first time, seeing the birth of a new soul, Luochio couldn't care about anything else. Like waiting for the moment when the epiphyllum bloomed in the middle of the night, Luochio quietly listened to the sound of the new soul. But Boss Luo opened his eyes at this moment, saying softly, I thought you wouldn't care about this matter. Miss Blackwater. Blackwater was behind him.